1. Now I'm live. All right, for those who are just now joining, welcome to the live stream. And I want to give a couple of notes before we get started here. I do sound a little bit sick. So just kind of like don't mind how sick I kind of sound. I'm okay. I don't think it's COVID. But anyway, today I am joined by DC Perspective. He's joining me as he did a couple of weeks ago. And today, basically, we're just going to kind of talk about general things about the 2020s, but we're also going to be talking about the Derek Chauvin trial today. For those who don't know, well, actually, let me go ahead and introduce DC Perspective. So, DC, if you could actually introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm David with the DC Perspective. You can call me DC or David. I don't care. I guess I'm a paleo conservative. I create content on DC Perspective is my YouTube channel. My ad on Twitter is Son of Carl. It's Son of, and pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right,
Again.
no problem. Looks like I did switch over so everyone can see you now. But yeah, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at the Derek Chauvin trial. For those who don't know, that the Derek Chauvin trial is the trial that is currently happening in Minneapolis. And this is over the killing of George Floyd back in May. I think it was May 25th, 2020, and that essentially caused worldwide protests against the killing of George Floyd. Now they're finally, as we speak now, I believe they are going to be announcing a verdict within the next couple of minutes. I may be wrong about that, but DC did tell me that they may be announcing a verdict.
Yeah,
But as we
they might delay it again.
Yeah, they may or may not delay, but from what we are seeing now, I mean, there's National Guard troops being deployed into Minneapolis. They're basically preparing for the possibility, and even the president is preparing for the possibility that there is going to be a controversial verdict, that the guy Derek Chauvin is going to be acquitted. The possibility of that. And I think I mean, at least my opinion, and I told DC about this before we went live. What happened to George Floyd was pretty disgusting. I mean, you can't really justify sitting on the neck of someone for 9 minutes, especially after they had stopped breathing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess, but it was. I don't think it is anymore, but it was procedure in a lot of cases. And I don't think he had not been breathing for 9 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, he wasn't not breathing for 9 minutes. I think it was the last couple of minutes that he wasn't breathing.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But then at the same time, we do see like a lot of these trying to get my thoughts here. Chauvin will be found guilty, but will be given the least amount of time. And that's the thing. I mean,
it was delayed another 15 minutes, by the way. So now it's a waiting game.
Oh yeah, now it's a waiting game on the verdict.
I'm just waiting.
So during this stream, I mean, we're going to be streaming for at least an hour today. So we should maybe be able to talk about the verdict today on this stream. But see, that's the thing is, and what I really wanted to talk about is the judge for the case yesterday. I was watching the judge make a, like, after the jury had left for deliberations. He even said that I mean, the way the media has been acting about this, the way that certain congressional members have been acting about this, I mean, it may be grounds for an appeal. So a lot of the public reaction to this is possibly making some sort of case in order for an appeal, because I mean we're seeing congressional members cough cough Maxine Waters that are basically saying that if they do not rule the way we want them to, then you need to be in the streets, you need to be doing this, and you need to be confrontational, you need to be more confrontational. And and I really liked what the judge said about it, because the judge basically said, like, I wish that certain people, Maxine Waters, should have more respect for the judicial system, and that I think it's more grounds for an appeal if he's found guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that clip as well. I've been ignoring the trial for the most part, so I don't have a lot of information to add on whether anybody had a good defense or a good prosecutorial case or whatever. But I did see that clip, and he said, "Look, you got to respect the rule of law, and you got to respect the judicial process, which is what you were talking about." And then we got, the mayor of Minneapolis, or like Fry or whatever, or Free. I don't know, that little twerp who looks like a 32-year-old guy, and he's talking about how these are liberal people, leftist progressive people that believe in moral relativism. And then he comes out yesterday and he says, we know that whatever happened, there is one truth and only one truth, and regardless of the verdict of the outcome, we know that George Floyd was killed by Derek Chauvin. And it's like, what about the judicial system? If they come out and say that, yeah, George Floyd didn't kill Derek Chauvin, he's acquitted, then in every sense, he did not kill George Floyd. Like, we have had a super long, over reported, in my opinion, trial, and they found him innocent, hypothetically, then he didn't do it. Like, that's what that means. So these people are undermining the rule of law. And I think it just goes to show that, when Marjorie Taylor Greene or Representative Gosar or whoever wrote that document that was leaked to Punchbowl, when they say that we're an Anglo-Saxon country and we respect Anglo-Saxon tradition, it's like, well, that's clearly not true, because the majority of the people in this country don't actually respect Anglo-Saxon tradition or even Norman tradition, rule of law, and understanding the judicial process. I mean, we have people that come out and say, I don't care what happens at this trial, as long as I get my verdict the way I want it, then I'll like it. But if it goes against what I think, not a fan.
See, that's the thing, is I mean, you're basically seeing a lot of these people that basically have no education on the judicial system. They don't really, you know, care, because the only thing that they really care about is about getting a verdict that they seem to think that is correct. And I had a conversation about this yesterday with someone. I think, like, in if you're to talk about, like, whether he should be found guilty, one part of me does say that I want him to be guilty, because I think that but then at the same time, I'm kind of with you on that. I have not been watching most of the trial, mainly because of how politicized it's been. And that's whenever and that's what I really think that is hurting a lot of these trials that happen, especially whenever it comes to a black man being killed by a police officer, or by just in situations like that. you know Whenever you politicize it to the point to where you really cannot tell which side is which, I think that really hurts you in the long run, and it's going to I think it's raising some alarm bells in the judicial system, because I mean, what kind of judicial system are we going to have in the next couple of years if every single time uh Twitter basically wants to uh say how something should go, and then they'll riot if they don't get their way. I mean, what kind of judicial system do we have anymore?
Anarcho tyranny
Exactly.
is what that is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And there was an example of this, really good example of this. A man was trying to get to his home in a suburb. Black Lives Matter had blocked off the entrance into the town, or the, I guess I should say, the neighborhood, and he wasn't able to get in. He gets out of his car, he starts yelling at him to move. Obviously, the guy's angry, and then the police come up and arrest him instead of the people blocking traffic. So, that is in a sense anarcho tyranny, and it's what we're dealing with. And I don't know if you saw my last. I think you saw my democracy video.
Yes, I
and
did.
I said that in that video. I said, we don't respect the rule of law, and we don't respect our judicial system, and we don't respect a somewhat free and a somewhat fair trial. Yeah, what's up, American Predictions? How you doing? I used those words, somewhat free and somewhat fair, very purposefully, because this idea that in America we've always had a free and fair trial is not true. There's always been biases. It's there, things have always been biased. Things have always leaned one way or another way. Michael Malice talks about this a lot. And the New Right talk about it a lot. I guess I should say the reactionaries talk about it a lot. And now that is completely being thrown out the window. This idea that we had a somewhat free and fair trial, because people don't respect, what it is that makes this country a country, which is its laws and its institutions. And since people have stopped respecting its laws and its institutions, then nothing about it even matters. What matters now is my agenda and what I want to get done. That's to see this falling on the scale that we have. Just no one cares.
Now, do you think that both sides could be guilty of this, or do you think that it's just uh, a certain side of the political spectrum? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there are certainly times where conservatives will go outside of the law, when it comes to the Constitution, and do executive actions that are outside of the scope of the Constitution. I think Donald Trump did this a couple of times, but he was normally instantly sued by like some random judge in Hawaii or something and stopped. But I think that the left is predominantly guilty of this because it's the left. Why would they? I don't blame them. I don't blame them for hating the Constitution, or not following the Constitution, at least, because they view the Constitution as a piece of paper that was written 300 years ago by white guys that own slaves, that don't represent their needs or their wants or their desires or their theology or philosophy. And so they why would they follow the Constitution in the first place? Why would they respect Anglo-Saxon tradition? Because Anglo-Saxon tradition, in their mind, has always been oppressive and a force of evil. So it's predominantly the left that goes around the Constitution, that goes around our laws. Nice to see my favorite fascist. What's up, man? I'm not a fascist. They go around our laws, and they just don't care anymore.
The best right wing populist. I mean, he's not wrong there. I mean, I have said.
Well, are you talking about yourself? Yeah, no, I'd say you seem like a right wing populist.
Me?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't have long sleeves on. This is not a black shirt. I mean, it is a black shirt, but it's not long sleeves, so it doesn't count.
Oh, so are you a black shirt?
No, I just said I'm not.
Do I have a fascist on this stream? I'm gonna go ahead and end it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, Oswald Mosley specifically wore long sleeve shirts, so I'm good.
See, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues that I see with a lot of people now is, and especially like because I don't really like to kind of like say, oh, the left is doing this, it's all the leftist fault, like just like AMN said, like it's always the leftists, like, but it's really
Am I wrong? Is it not the leftists though?
See, that's kind of like what we were gonna talk about is like it really sucks, like, because a lot of people on the right, yeah, there were a couple of things. I can't really uh name specifically what Trump did. If you could actually name what Trump did, but I may remember it. I just can't really like say it off the top of my head.
Like redirecting funds for the border wall was
Yeah,
technically a breach, his executive
yeah.
abilities, but who cares? you know, um, whereas the left is clearly, openly pushing the boundaries of our, you know, constitution and of our law when it comes to adding DC as a state. It is specifically in the Constitution that DC is not supposed to be a state. Stacking the Supreme Court or expanding the scope of the Supreme Court. Joe Biden said as much after the shooting in Boulder, I think, or another shoot, whatever, one of the shootings, which have coincidentally started happening every single day ever since Biden took office. Don't know why that happened. But he said the Constitution doesn't matter when we're talking about the safety of citizens, and it's like, oh, okay, so there's the truth. The truth comes out. The Constitution doesn't matter because, like Rowan Murdoch said, who cares about Anglo-Saxon traditions? They suck. And I mean, if that's your opinion, then that's your opinion. And if you think that Anglo-Saxon traditions suck and you want to get rid of them, then that's how you're going to act.
Now,
And
Anglo-Saxon traditions, like, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, Anglo-Saxon traditions, meaning that when people say Anglo-Saxon, what they really mean is Norman, because we know that it was actually the Norse and the Scandinavians that came to England and to the British Isles, I should say, and established their own rule and their own kingdoms, and then over the years that the Magna Carta, they developed this. Magna Carta was written in the 1600s. The John Locke, the Enlightenment thinking.
I think the Magna Carta was in the 1200s.
Yeah, you might be right. I might be getting my dates mixed up. Eighth grade history was a long time ago, buddy.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Normans came after the Anglo-Saxons. They took over Anglo-Saxons, and so when most people say Anglo-Saxon tradition, what they're really referring to is the Norman tradition. But Norman doesn't sound that good. And even Antonin Scalia. Antonin Scalia was on a video on Twitter. He's passed away, obviously, but he's a Supreme Court justice. He's obviously Italian. Scalia is an Italian name. He has an Italian face, and he says as much in this video where he's talking. He says, "Look at me. I'm an Italian. I look Italian. I sound Italian. My last name is Italian, but I'm from America. And when I go to, Britain, when I go to England, I feel at home culturally because American culture is informed by it is a development on British culture." And that's what I mean by Anglo-Saxon. And we're losing that. We've lost that because ever since 1965, we've taken in 1.5 million immigrants. But yeah, that's what I mean when I say Anglo-Saxon.
Okay. By the way, Red, White, and Ben, welcome to the live stream. Good thing you're done with your finals finally. Yeah. See, that's one of the things that I am kind of I'll say that I'm ignorant in is whenever it comes to like it's more cultural identity. Like in some ways I do like I basically do identify as a right-wing populist, but I think whenever it comes to just like cultural issues, whenever we're talking about I mean, I think there's a couple of things, and I mean, your channel is actually kind of like I wouldn't say enlighten me, but it's kind of like I guess opened the door into just some of the cultural issues that have been coming up. And I've always kind of known that this is because I don't want to say something that's literally just going to be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you think that," and then I'm just going to get my channel deleted or whatever. But
right, yeah, you got to be tactful. Like I was talking to this guy beforehand. My last video was about PragerU, and he was talking about, dude, why'd you disavow the ethnostate, man? The ethnostates aren't actually bad. It's just like means 80% white, 80%, majority. And I'm like, 80% white, 80% 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 majority. And I'm like, you think I can just hop on my channel and say I'm pro ethnostate? Like, no, I'm gonna get banned if I do that. Are you dumb? It's like we got to be tactful about this stuff. And I'm not a fan of the ethnostate. I think that if you begin talking about ethnostates, you lead to a disastrous place throughout history. So I'm not a fan.
See, I've had that
But
conversation before. I think I actually had that conversation with Red, White, and Ben
mhm.
and America First Mapping.
uh,
And it was like it was like the conversation that we kind of had was about the differences between European nationalism and American nationalism, and we all
yeah,
kind of like agreed that basically American nationalism, I mean, both of those nationalisms are basically so different because European nationalism is always about race, and then American nationalism is about, American exceptionalism, about American, uh, just basically, I mean, if I could say it in like two words, America first.
yeah.
Um, and at least again, that's whenever I kind of like, I mean, if you say the word ethno state, I really don't know what that exactly means, but I can kind of,
Well, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and that's why I don't like the word. Because
yeah,
some people will hear the word ethnostate and assume that means 100% majority ethnic. Like if you're a black ethnostate, you only want black people. Everybody else either has to be killed or leave. If you're a white ethnostate, you only want white people. Everybody else has to be killed or leave. But and then you have more moderate people that are pro ethnos. They'll go, no, no, no. We only want an 80% supermajority, and that's it. And it's like, but how are you going to enforce that? Are you going to like sterilize minorities? What are you talking about here? So there's a lot of like dangerous things. And I see
yeah.
I'm kind of lagging. Am I lagging here? Do you hear me?
You're kind of like lagging a little bit, but I mean, like it only lasts like 1 or 2 seconds, and then you come back. So I mean, you're actually doing pretty good so far.
Okay, thank you.
Um, but is there any updates on
They
the
delayed it again.
come on. I mean, they
They
should take.
delayed it for another 15 minutes now.
They're just gonna keep delaying it for 15 minutes. It's just like
Yeah.
blue balling the public. Um, but chat, what really me and uh DC wanted to do is that if chat really wanted to kind of like lead us in anything, if you guys have any questions, like any topics that you guys want to discuss about, that's absolutely what we can do. Again, I think what we're really wanting to wait for is we because we really thought that the Derek Chauvin trial was going to announce its verdict by the time of that we were going to go live, but it looks like that they want to keep delaying it.
Yeah, 3:20 now.
Um,
So EST. So now we're gonna have to wait another like 15 minutes or
who are you
something.
seeing that through?
Twitter, just
Oh, Twitter.
friends in group chats. Everybody's watching it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, did you want to talk about where we were gonna go? What we kind of discussed before about just kind of like general
Geopolitics and
geopolitics.
politics in general. Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm always open for any discussion. That's what I like a lot about coming on these shows is that we can just talk about whatever. Um, yeah. So what do you have in mind?
Um, I mean, for one, the president of Chad apparently died like a Chad on the front lines of northern Chad. So that's not really something that we would talk about. But I saw that
Well, did he
before.
die on the front lines, or was he actually like an active combat,
I
or
think he
was he
was in
just like,
active combat.
wow,
Like
impressive?
like
Or
I don't.
because I know that sometimes these executive leaders will just like review the stations of the troops and give a morale boost or whatever. Um,
From what I'm hearing is
but
that apparently he was on the front lines, like actually fighting. Like he was
wow,
given like I think he
or
was
like
more of
a
like a,
like Theodore Roosevelt almost
yeah,
in the
probably
Spanish
freaking Rough
war.
Rider,
Right.
except he died this time. But
Yeah.
no,
Well,
I think
Teddy Roosevelt actually asked Woodrow Wilson in 1917. He was like, "Give me a brigade to lead in World War One."
oh
He
my
wanted to be a
god.
he wanted to be a cavalry leader. I mean, he died shortly after, but they obviously told him no. They said, no, you can't do that. You're going to get yourself killed, and that can't happen. It's like, and he would have gotten himself killed if he went to World War One, no doubt.
That would have been nuts to see pictures of freaking Teddy Roosevelt in the front lines of World War One.
Yeah.
But really, what I've been seeing is, I mean, one of the big ones is, I mean, we're talking about like Russia. Apparently, the Russians have been putting like 150,000 troops on the border with Ukraine. Um, and that's a really big one. What was that?
Well, it's not like they're being. I might be lagging out. I think.
A little bit, but you're okay right now.
Mhm. No, I'm watching my internet stutter right now on my other computer. So. But there's this like I posted the link in the chat. YouTube might not let me post links, but I posted it anyways. There's this Great Powers Journal that is being started by a buddy of mine, and so he lets some other people publish for him, and they've been covering the topic really well. And Russia, Russia isn't even necessarily the provocateur in this situation. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I want to know, how much do you know about it? Should we like start from the beginning, or?
I mean, I've been following it since at least like the Russo, they call it the Russo-Ukrainian War. Um Ever since it started, like ever since the unrest began back in 2014, I've been following it. So, um I also know like a lot of the history behind like Ukraine, like about their I would say subjugation under Soviet Union.
Hmm.
Um like that Crimea was like this territory that the Russians gave to Ukraine in 54, I think right before Stalin died. Um it kind of depends on what you mean.
Well, okay, yeah, no. Since you know about the Ukrainian conflict in 2014, I mean, like what really happened is that there's this divide in eastern Ukraine between the ethnic Russians and the ethnic Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when the Soviet Union split up, big portion of
Okay, now
was
you're actually
ethnically
starting to lag.
unfortunate.
Go ahead and say that again. It's the it was
Well,
after.
including Crimea.
Sorry. Okay, now you're good.
Well, there big portions of this country are ethnically Russian, and the Russians obviously want to be a part of Russia. And the Russian Federation sees that, and they go, okay, welcome on board, join us. And then you have this Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is being fought by the U.S. because it would provide gas, oil, or I think, yeah, gas to Central Europe, and that would disrupt the supply chain and allow Central Europe to be less dependent on the USA, therefore giving the USA less control over uh, Europe and European affairs, less soft power. And what's happening right now is out of nowhere. We're seeing this intense escalation for reasons I don't really know why they waited until now, but I think it has something to do with Biden, and I think it has something to do with Blinken, and I think it has something to do with Trump being out of office. And this conflict, the conflict has been stirring since before 2016. And you remember there was this big talk in the 2016 election: Hillary Clinton's going to get us into war. Hillary Clinton's going to get us into war with Russia. This no-fly zone over Syria. Blah 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 blah. And so this idea that Hillary Clinton was going to get us into war really permeated, and I think that it's true for the most part. I think that the military-industrial complex, the military establishment, the security establishment, are all interested in a very serious conflict with Russia. And now we're seeing that play out in reality. So we are, sending supplies, and we have been sending supplies to Ukraine to help them fight their civil war, um, which has, I think, been on, for the most part, a standstill in the Donbass region. But there's a big likelihood that it starts up again. And then you get this Zelensky guy elected in Ukraine. His approval rating is like 30%. Nobody likes him. And
Are you
and
talking
and
about the
that
Ukrainian president?
yeah, the Ukrainian president. And that's a huge problem as well for the country. Zelensky is an amateur. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not managing well, and so he basically just wants the USA and NATO establishment to come in and to play ball with him, play ball for him, kind of. And I wouldn't doubt for half a minute that Russia escalates if things get serious. Russia's not going to give up the Crimea, or Crimea, I should say. Russia's not going to give up Crimea at all. The access to the hot water ports is what they need the most to really stabilize their geopolitical situation, and that's also why they're so interested in Syria. So there's no reason why they should give up, and that's where we're at now. We have two relatively great powers facing off in Ukraine, and we're seeing that diplomats are being expelled from Russia and from the USA and from France and from Germany and from the UK. And yeah, the Crimean government is creating their own military. I didn't know that. They're just a puppet of Russia, if that's the case. Yeah, it needs a reliable port. Exactly. And yeah, we're expelling diplomats from countries, and that's stuff that hasn't really been seen since like World War One. So extreme measures are being taken, and I think that with the current establishment we have now, the military establishment, if Hillary Clinton was elected, since Joe Biden has been elected, um, any Democrat or any Republican, this conflict would be inevitable. And so I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, see, that's the thing about, like, you said something about Syria, and then who was it? Tienka. Uh, but basically,
Tiunka, maybe.
the thing about Syria, and then why Russia has been so interested in Syria, is that, I mean, if we're basically talking about ports. I mean, the Russians are basically, they're locked in through the Baltic Sea. They have to go through the
Denmark.
Baltics. They have to go through Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and it to some extent the United Kingdom, in order to get out into the Atlantic Sea. And then in the Black Sea, they're blocked in by Turkey that controls the Strait of the forgetting the name of the strait.
Well,
Um,
Turkey is an interesting case as well because Turkey is cozying up to Putin a little bit more.
a
They
little
were
bit.
they were shooting down Syrian planes in like 2015 and 2017, but after the CIA attempted a coup in their country in 2016, they've kind of realized that okay, maybe Turkey has kind of realized okay, maybe Putin isn't that bad, maybe Russia isn't that bad, um, and maybe like, and so they've been buying arms from Putin more, and they've been reliant on Putin a little bit more.
See, what I really wanted to ask you, like, if, and I think I've seen a couple of your videos, and I don't know if you've ever really touched on this before. But what I really wanted to ask is, like, do you think that if the Russians were to launch a full scale invasion of Ukraine, and they were to, I mean, with the amount of troops that they're amassing on the Ukrainian border, and if they were to either A, get directly involved into the war in eastern Ukraine, or B, they would basically be sending paratroopers into Kiev, would you think that
Mm,
it would be advisable for the United States to get involved in that?
well, I think that There have been war games played out by independent contractors for the U.S. military that have found that our defense goals cannot be achieved against Russia or China. Whether that's a ploy for more funding by the MIC, I don't know,
Yeah.
but it could be true that we don't have the capabilities to adequately defend Ukraine. But if we don't, Ukraine is going to get destroyed. Not literally, but they don't stand a chance against the Russian military. I think if we don't get involved, um, I don't think Joe Biden really doesn't like Russia.
Yeah.
Like he's a Europhile. Like he loves Europe. Russia's not a part of Europe, and so he doesn't like Russia. And I don't think that he would allow for something like that. If we do get involved, the new question is: are we capable of achieving our goals, defending Ukraine? Like I said, military war games have said no, probably not. In reality, I think it would be a slog fest. Um, ideally it would remain a proxy war, so it doesn't go like you said, Vladimir Putin, so it doesn't go into full like blown World War III mode. Because if we do end up in a conflict in Ukraine, I believe that China would take that opportunity to advance their interests in Myanmar and in Taiwan. I would not be surprised if we saw them act together.
That would basically put us on a two-front war at that point, because it's either we defend Ukraine or we basically wait for the Chinese to start marching into Taipei. And if it happens at the
Right.
same time, I mean, I mean, that's the thing about that, is that if anything happens with Russia and Ukraine or China and Taiwan, I mean, that's basically going to be like free game for a lot of other countries to start seizing opportunities that they basically been waiting on, because they don't want to attract the attention of the United States.
Exactly. Everybody's aware that the United States is weaker now than it's been since the end of World War II. And in reality, there just needs to be a quick focal point and a snapshot, or someone needs to take the first brick from the foundation, and then I think everybody will try to get what's good while they have a chance. Uh, yo, what's up, Caleb? Caleb says, Army infantryman here. I have zero doubt in our abilities to slap the Russians. My brother is in Qatar and I'm on IRR. Russian isn't a threat at all. China is. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess if we like put all of our full might behind uh, our conquest against Russia, we could slap them, but I don't think we will.
As long as it's not
Um,
during the winter.
right, as long as it's not during winter. Never underestimate the ability of Russians to come back from getting slapped. Um,
And that's the
I,
thing about Russia, is that I think it's more beneficial that we kind of like, at least, and I mean, Biden is basically has a bone to pick with them, because all of the intelligence agencies, whether it's correct or wrong, are basically saying that the Russians tried to stop him from becoming president. And we're basically looking at, you know, I mean, a potential distraction. And I mean, I really don't want the Russians to, send 100,000 troops like across the border of Ukraine. But then I really like, if I were to look at, Russia and China, I kind of take a Caleb's part on that, is that I believe that if we were to kind of like look at both sides, I think the Chinese are way more of a threat than the Russians honestly ever could be. And the Russians, I mean, semi are in a, not really an alliance, but in an economic partnership with them. But even they, I mean, that sort of alliance, I mean, really isn't going to play that well in the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, because I mean, China has claims on on the far east of Russia. They basically want to take that territory back. And I mean, if they're going to be going after, Pakistan
You
or not,
mean the alliance between Russia and China isn't going to play well?
yeah, because there's not really they're not really a semi alliance, but they basically have like the idea that they're sort of alliance, because I keep kind of calling it like vague terms, but
Well, they're allied. They're allied in their opposition to
the United States.
the Western global
Yeah.
homogeneity, the Atlantic, you know, council that we have between America and Europe and the liberal order. So yeah, I mean, I guess in that sense they're allied, but you know, for years to come, or in years to come, China will obviously be the more powerful of the two nations, and I think that Russia will take a subordinate role to China when it comes to any military action. Um, but I'm actually not as concerned about their alliance falling apart. I don't think that that would happen. I think that they see each other as necessary allies. I'm actually rather skeptical of the ability of the United Nations, or NATO, I should say, and Europe and the European Union. I'm skeptical of their ability to stay together. Obviously, America is being decoupled from Europe, or was being under the last administration. And we still see people like Angela Merkel in Germany trying to push us further away, and Macron. And that's why you see them making moves to establish a or a European Union military, because they understand, which is how it's been since like the end of World War II. I mean, it was, you know, Robert Kennedy who called France and said, "Hey, you're going to decolonize Africa, or we're going to like make you pay for it." So
Actually, I didn't know that.
yeah, no, America's basically been behind the decline of Europe as world powers, and
I
obviously,
actually
if I
know
was
that. I mean, for example, I mean Eisenhower basically told the French and the Israelis and the Brits that if they didn't pull out of Egypt, then they weren't they I think they were going to sanction them or something like that. That basically
right,
was like the final domino to fall on the British Empire.
that was the right to do for
You're
Earth,
actually lagging
because
a
if
little
there's
bit.
power in the world, yeah, okay,
Okay, now you're not.
that's unfortunate. Yeah, but I mean, if you're America, that's the smartest thing to do as well, because you know you're the strongest power in the world. As a you got the USSR, but the Western world, the free world, you should obviously limit the ability of other nations to rise up in that power vacuum. Don't create a power vacuum. Keep them weak. Keep them subordinate to you. And now we're seeing that kind of get turned on its back, though. Like, okay, America, you kind of suck now. Like, you're not great. We don't like you. You're at home. You're unstable. Your political stability. I mean, you had your Capitol building like stormed by a bunch of boomers. Um, so on and so forth. Your whole country's been on fire for the last year and a half now. Maybe you're not the best person to lead us. And so they're like I said, decoupling, and I doubt the ability of NATO to actually join in fighting these people together, especially if it's China. Like Germany has no interest in going to war with China. None of them do. They're huge trade partners, economic partners, so social, scientific partners, I should say. China has a lot of soft power, and you know, I think it'll be quite an event if anything does happen. I think that if we do, I think that we're going to see the bureaucratic class, the incompetent class that we have in Washington D.C. and in the Beltway. If they're not replaced within the next two administrations, we're going to see the geopolitical collapse of our country as the world power. China's set to overtake our economy by 2028. Now, before COVID-19, they were going to overtake it by 2034, so it's decreased by like 6 years. So we might as well get ready for it, whatever that means. Um, But do you have any other questions regarding geopolitics or any thoughts? Because I see people are starting to ask different questions about the economy. So,
Yeah, I mean, we could go ahead and go on that, and then if we could kind of like, we could, as Jen Psaki says, we could circle back. Um,
yeah.
yeah, there's a couple of interesting questions that I was looking at in chat. Um, which one do we want to start with first? The hardline stance on the riots. Um, but so it says PG and DC, can you take a hardline stance on the riots? As far as I'm concerned, anyone rioting or looting and are domestic terrorists, they need to be prosecuted at a federal level. Do you want to go ahead and start off?
Um, ideally, we would get them out of civil society because they're not civil, and therefore civil society can exist with them in it. So throw them in jail, probably. At least enforce the law. You know, letting these rioters off the hook every time they get caught. Just encourage them to go out and commit more crime. So, like I said, in order for civil society to exist, people need to be civil within the society. And if you're not civil, then you should not be within the society. So, yeah, that's my hardline stance. I mean, I'm not going to say put them up against the wall and shoot them, but
Yeah, I
there
wouldn't
should be
really say,
punishment.
like put him in front of the firing squad or something like that. But then at the same, I think like at least my thoughts on it is, I think I think it's stupid how a lot of people say like, oh well, you know, um, the like a lot of people don't have the material possessions, so then like because they never have had access historically to those material possessions, then basically uh talk a tooth and a nail like about why people riot and then why basically justifying violence against political dissidents and etc. And I think that
Right. You know, that MLK quote that everybody likes to quote rioting is the voice for the voiceless. It's like, well, you know, if your solution to not having a voice is burning down the local church, then I don't think you deserve a voice in the first place.
I mean,
Sorry.
I for one would love to go steal a flat screen TV, but I'm not that strong. But
Right.
like
I'm sure you
it
could lift a flat screen. They're not that heavy anymore.
yeah, true. Uh, but at the same time, like because I understand that because and that's why in some ways I am a little sympathetic to organizations like BLM. But
Nah.
I absolutely wait just like see
Yeah, I'll
I
let
know
you. I'll
that's
let
gonna
you
turn
finish.
a couple of heads. I'm a little sympathetic to the cause. Okay, I'm not gonna say the organization, but I'm gonna say to the cause. And I think a lot of people can kind of say like, yeah, I mean there are a couple of issues. I for one like feel like yes, there are a couple of issues with racial discrimination and the way that policing happens or something like that. But then at the same time, you know, that doesn't justify you breaking into a small business and beating the living shit out of the guy that owns it and then, stealing like 40 flat screen TVs and a bunch of shoes or something like that. Like
Right.
you can absolutely go out, protest, try to change something. But the moment that you go into a small business or like a corporate store, I mean, you know, go into Amazon store all you want. I mean, I kind of don't care about that. I'm just kidding. Um,
Screw the corpos. Yeah, I saw that they burnt down an Apple store.
yeah, that's fine. Uh,
Do not condone violence.
we do
It's
not
bad.
condone violence on this podcast. We do not.
But
Uh,
there are other things that you could do that would upset me a little bit more.
possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that I think it's unfortunate, whenever like I mean there's a couple of names that I can think of like Philando Castile, the shooting of Philando Castile, the shooting of Tamir Rice. Like there's several different names that I can think of that the shooting of those people, yeah, that was a very unfortunate event and that what that was very shitty. But then there's a couple of different instances that you can kind of think of, I mean, to a point, George Floyd, I mean, whenever you like take a bunch of drugs right whenever you're getting pulled over by the cops or something like that, and then you're, fighting with them for 20 minutes, and and for one, I'm not sitting here saying like, like, oh, that makes him, deserve to die or something like that. No one in their right mind would think that someone should die for such a small infraction. But whenever you do take drugs, I mean, you're going to have a reaction to that. And then whenever you're about to go to jail, I mean, you're going I mean, if you're fighting with cops, I mean, that's going to cause them to, like, put you on the ground and then try to kind of like calm you down in some
Restrain
way,
you.
shape, or form.
Yeah. Follow procedure, which is what, but you're supposed to get recovery position. But I mean, George Floyd's like 6'4", something. He's tall. He's a
He's
big
a
guy.
he,
And,
he's a
I
big
don't,
guy.
right. And you had a crowd of people around yelling at the cops. I mean, it wasn't a good situation for anyone to be in. But BLM is they're a worthless organization. They don't promote anything good. Um, their foundation is on this idea that America is some oppressive, totalitarian, racist, anti-black state. When in reality, the opposite is true.
Basically
Um,
critical race theory.
sure, yeah. I mean, I guess anti-white rhetoric, and I don't think that BLM needs to exist. The fact that you can name, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, or Condoleezza Rice, or whoever it was, Dante Wright, or whatever, proves to me that it's not actually an epidemic of black people being killed unjustly by cops. It's not. Like Stalin said, if it's one person, it's a big deal. If it's 1,000 people, it's just a statistic. So if people really were being killed every day by these evil cops, you wouldn't be able to keep track of it. Statistically speaking. And we know more whites are killed by cops. More unarmed whites are killed by cops. Adjusted for the population as well, I believe. Adjusted for the rate at which they commit crimes.
Did you
We
actually
know.
hear did you hear about, like, I think it was yesterday or the day before or something like that? It was I think it was in Minnesota. And it was somewhere in the country. I'm really thinking it was Minnesota, but basically the guy uh there was a guy that was shot by police. Like, he literally like ran out into the middle of a highway and tried to carjack a car, and I think the police kind of like got up on him, and then I think and they killed him. And a lot of people, like, came out and then said, like, did the moment of silence on their knees.
Yeah, that
uh,
gay stuff.
Wouldn't call it gay, uh but they basically
Well,
were
he said
like,
they were on their knees.
oh my god, whatever. Took me a minute.
No.
But no, like, they basically, they were doing their kind of like I really don't know what to call it, but they basically were just like, like, no
Yeah, they're
justice, no
religious.
peace.
They were doing their religious symbolism, their religious practice. It means nothing, but culturally it means something because you
Yeah, they went like
gotta.
culturally, yeah, cultural, I guess, thing. And then I think it was like the moment they found out that it was a white guy, they all just kind of dispersed and walked
Yeah, who
away.
cares? Right, because I'm sure the majority of them were black, and why would they care about a white person? I mean, they have uh, identity traits. I mean, obviously, I don't believe that. I care about black people, white people, but when you're in a group of people like this and you identify and you're taught and you're told to believe that black people are being persecuted, and then you or you go somewhere and what happened is contrary to what you think happens, why would you stick around? You have no reason to.
Uh, I
So
I just saw just as a kind of like a breaking news on politics gaming, guys.
okay.
The Derek Chauvin jury reached a verdict. They're going to be announcing it between 3:30 and 4 p.m. Eastern time.
Exciting stuff. Exciting stuff.
Exciting. So it's either he goes to jail or there's going to be a massive amount of peaceful protests that are about to break out across the country, guys. Um so that's going to be in about between now and within the next 15 minutes, I guess.
What is?
The verdict. They're going to announce the verdict. It's expected to be
Ver-
read shortly, apparently.
um, I'm reading on Disclosed TV, which is a Twitter account with a couple 100,000 followers, I think, maybe a million by now. They say the verdict is reached and will be announced around 5 p.m. EST.
That's in like an hour.
That's 2 hours.
Damn.
Or an hour and 30 minutes, yeah. I don't want to stream for that long. um,
Probably not.
yeah, I mean, we could. I have a lot to say, but I don't want to. But yeah, no. Someone was saying that Antifa isn't a terrorist organization because they're not an organized group. Actually, the FBI director came out in a Senate committee the other day and said that they were organized and operating as cells within the USA. So the government disagrees with you.
See, that's the thing about Antifa.
Sucks to be
I
you.
I absolutely cannot. I cannot stand Antifa. The fact I know so many people on the left that basically sit there and say like Antifa, like they're anti-fascist. It's in the name, like they're anti-bad, like. And I'm like, okay, but how can you be anti-bad whenever you're literally beating the shit out of people? And I
They
mean,
don't care.
whenever it comes to a certain person in Kenosha, like I mean, you can't just sit there and try to beat someone up with a skateboard and all that. And I've gotten into arguments with family members about it because it's like, you know, oh well, I mean, you can't just carry a gun into the middle of a protest, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
that's not what
actually, you can.
it's called. It's called open
Yeah.
carry. I think that he shouldn't have been there because he's 17 and shouldn't have had a gun in the first place.
Right, right, sure. Agreed.
But then at the same time, I mean, how stupid can you be to attack someone that's openly carrying a firearm? Um,
I'm dumb. I mean, that's what happens. This is what I was talking to you about with Teatrum or whatever his name is. It's like
Trimi,
when people get, yeah, Teatrimi, thank you. When people get in a group of, in a mob, they don't think rationally. They
yeah,
don't act rationally. They feel invincible. And that's why these idiots chasing after this guy with a semi-automatic rifle with 30 bullets in the magazine, maybe 15, 16 maybe. Like, you don't think that he can destroy a lot of your guys' lives by the time you reach him because you're in a mob and you think you're safe, and that's what happens. And so, yeah, they got what they got because they did something stupid. Not to say that Kyle Rittenhouse is either. I mean, like I guess it's valiant to be out there, and helping clean up and helping protect some businesses, but why? I mean, the country's like falling apart anyways. Why would you? Why
and
would you part of that?
DC, thank you for not saying clip LMAO.
Yeah, I'm somewhat gun literate.
Yeah, I think I'm on. I wouldn't say that I'm gun
Aren't you
literate.
from like Houston? Of course you're not.
Dallas actually.
Hmm,
Um,
that makes more
yeah,
sense.
yeah, it's kind of I had someone actually ask me. They were basically like, "You're from Texas and you don't own a gun," and I'm just like, "Do you think like we're just?"
Texas is a big place, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand why people think that, but it's just like, oh yeah, you just think like we're like walking around on horses all the time, like just that's offensive. I'm gonna take offense to that. Um, what I was thinking about, like, what do you think about the First Amendment? Like, do you think, what do you think about like gun? And I think someone actually asked about this earlier. I think it was random dude on the internet. Like, what's your thoughts on like gun control?
I think any effort to control anybody's ability to own guns is an infringement on the right. I think Kyle Rittenhouse should have been able to carry that gun. I think he should be able to carry that gun if he was 14, 13, or anything. I know that there's exceptions for ages, I guess, when it comes to rights. But I don't think they're applied. Any regulation on any type of firearm, any type of ammunition, any type of attachment is an infringement on the Constitution. Which doesn't really say, which doesn't really mean much. But this idea that we can ban them and just it's ludicrous. It's a waste of time, and I mean it's a dead conversation. Conservatives have won, which is like the only time you'll hear me say that. You're not going to ban guns. The conversation's done. The rhetoric is from 2018. There's been no new developments. The opinion polls have been final. Um, none of them. You're not going to be successful. Cinema, Manchin, Mark Kelly. You're not going to get to ban any guns, and this is why we're seeing. It's crazy what's happening. Ever since Joe Biden, we hadn't had a terrorist attack in the United States since like Donald Trump took office. Like Islamic terrorist attack. But we've had like one or two since Biden joined. At the Capitol, dude rammed his car, killed a National Guardsman, and then the one that happened in Boulder was a kosher grocery market. Is Muslim, and so there's obviously, and I'm not gonna say anything about the motives of the shooters, but I'm 18, guys. Um, I'm 18. I'll be 19 this year. But
You actually
the
look a lot older than 18.
it's because I'm fat. Uh, but this idea that like we should be able to regulate guns, it's stupid. Yeah, I think gun control is like I think that guns are probably going to be the one thing that save this country in a lot of ways, or save the people of this country in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Actually, I think I heard that it was a kosher supermarket, but like whenever I did a little bit of research on the Colorado shooting, I didn't really find anything about it. Like, I mean, and I think
But the guy was
that's
a Muslim.
see, that's the thing is like that was the thing that really sucked about those couple of weeks where the thing in Atlanta happened, and then they were basically saying like, oh, the like he says that he didn't do it because they were Asian, but we have to acknowledge that he did it because they're Asian. And then, the next, like couple days later, dude goes into a supermarket in Colorado, and then he's just like, "Oh, we're gonna." And that's whenever I really get upset about like the how the narrative is kind of like played by the media and everything, because they basically they want their what do you call it, I guess directive to go the way they want it to. And I think it's unfortunate that a lot of people now, I mean, you can't you can't really analyze these things anymore without basically all the information being tainted by the way the narrative is supposed to go.
The agenda, yeah,
The
they want to
agenda.
push the yeah, and so again, what happened in Indiana, the capital of Indiana, Indianapolis, I believe. This shooting that took place at this manufacturer, I think 8 people died, 4 of them automatically it was assumed that this guy just hated immigrants, and there was no discussion over the other 4 people that died. Yeah, it was at FedEx. It was at a
It
FedEx
was a
packing
FedEx.
place, and it's like, right, it was FedEx, and it's like care about these 4 sheiks that died because they were minorities and believed in a minority religion, but we don't care about the other 4 people. I don't know the ethnicity, the names, who they were, what they believed. I don't know anything about those people because the media wants to push their agenda of white people. People are killing minorities and therefore actively work against white people. It's anti-white rhetoric, and it's not good stuff. Good stuff at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's really just, and I can't really say much on it because I think it's more I just kind of notice it, and it really just kind of like upsets me that that's basically the day and age that we live in. Is that is basically, oh, like if it's a white guy, then it's because it's of racism, but then if it's like any other ethnicity, then it's uh like I thought it was like crazy that they basically said, "Oh, like he said he did it for a different reason, but we're going to tell you that this is the reason why he did it." Um but
Right. Like especially like the shooting that took place in Atlanta, it was motivated by sex depravity, which is a byproduct of our degenerative culture. And it was blamed on Asian hatred, which isn't really the case. It just so happens that Asians tend to work in masseuse parlors more than other places because of the culture. Yeah, and so there's that, and it is whatever they want to do. And now we're talking about this anti-white rhetoric, which I make a point to use the term anti-white now because it's not racism; it's just anti-whiteness in a lot of these institutions. So I make a point to say it. And Enoch Powell made a really good point. Enoch Powell was, I don't know if you know who he is, he was the former Secretary of State for Health in the United Kingdom. He was like, I think he ran or was going to run for the prime minister position. And I mean, he basically said that like, United Kingdom is going to become a minority white country, and there's going to be places in the United Kingdom with majority whites or majority immigrants, and when they get in control, the whip they will have the whip that whites held over them for so long, and they'll want revenge. And so I think we're seeing that play out here. And I don't know how much further I can talk about this without like getting in trouble with YouTube.
yeah.
Uh, you're right, but I think that no offense, I think the channel might be obscure enough to fly under the radar. Um, so there's stuff like this that we're seeing happen. It's very ideologically driven. It's a byproduct of our democracy because the easiest way to get people to vote for you is to appeal to their identity, to their tribe. Hey, look, you have enemies. Your enemies are white people and conservatives, and they're doing these racist things against you. Um, then they'll be motivated to go out and vote more than if you say, "Hey, look, we're offering this economic policy," or etc.
Yeah, I think it's because like, and I think this is more prevalent in the United States, is basically like, and I think this is what Democrats have kind of like found, is that like, I mean, some people just don't turn out whenever they don't feel like something's on the line. Like they don't, and I mean they're doing a really good job at basically saying like, your voting rights are going to be taken away, uh your livelihoods are going to be taken away, and if you don't come out and vote, then you're going to lose your ability to vote. You're gonna be under Jim Crow 2.0, like, and I mean that basically sells. I mean, and it really sucks that that's basically. I mean, and that's whenever it comes to like that, people really just need to educate themselves. They need to kind of like look at what they're voting for, instead of voting for them just because they listen to certain media sources and then say, oh well, I mean, uh yeah. And by the way, from what you said earlier, I am offended.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Obscure. I'm just kidding. No, I really
Yeah,
don't care.
I know. Mhm.
I,
Well, you gotta cover your back. Um, I get it. Yeah, I mean, I don't like ideologies either, Caleb. Um, Ideologies are stupid, and I think that the person who debated Jordan Peterson has this really good quote regarding ideologies. He says ideologies are a lot like blowjobs. Nobody likes them, but nobody admits that they don't like them. And the purpose of an ideology is to like put you in this box and prevent you from being more pragmatic about the world. So yeah, I'm not a fan of ideologies. I would say that I call myself a paleoconservative because a lot of people understand what that means in America, but that's it.
yeah, I kind of understand that, because I mean, I don't really necessarily, like look at myself and say like, oh well, I'm a right wing populist, something like that. Because if someone really kind of like says like, I mean, especially if they understand it, then I'll just say, yeah, I'm a right wing populist.
Mhm.
But I don't necessarily like to kind of like identify myself as, like, that's basically all I am. Um, I think it's really to just purely look at everything by an ideological standpoint. I think that's also um, borderline dangerous because that's basically more divisive than anything.
Uh, I mean, I guess, yeah, yeah. You take yourself down a class. I think in a lot of ways, you you degrade your own standing within society when you put yourself into these boxes, and then you start saying stuff like, "We shouldn't worry about anything other than who owns the capital." Uh, that's kind of crazy. You start thinking like super dogmatic things. And this is what all the 19th century German philosophers were yelling about their whole lives. They were like, everybody's wrapped up in their dogma. They believe these things with no reason, and that's a problem. And to an extent, they have a point. But maybe we should just learn when we're talking in situations like this to take a step back and understand that um, maybe our ideology isn't right. And that's why I'm so difficult to pin down into an ideological category, because I'm willing to admit that there, because I've been a byproduct of this. I used to be very dogmatic, my libertarian, economically conservative thinking. Um, and since then, I've changed, and I realized how wrong I was in the past, and I recognized the ability for me to be wrong again. And I think a lot of like new right populists, right wing populists, Groyper, America First types are like that, because we've all come from a different place. Some of us were liberal, some of us were um, libertarians, which is liberal to be honest. Some of us were like classical conservatives, George Bush type of way, and we all realized we were wrong. And so I think there's a willingness to be more pragmatic regarding a lot of things, and so that's where I try to come from when it comes to ideology.
Yeah, see, whenever I don't know if I've had this discussion with you, but I've told several other people about it. Like back in 2016, I mean, I was like a full on Bernie bro. Like I was basically like, like free healthcare, free this, free that. Um Mainly just
Yeah,
mainly
well,
huh?
he appealed to something that nobody else did. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, the Bernie bro to like Donald Trump pipeline is real. It's real.
Yeah. And I'm basically a byproduct of that, so I think it's kind of cool that 'cause a lot of people really were just like how do you do that? And I'm like, do you know how many people like literally switched from Bernie to Trump back in 2016? It was one of the reasons why he won.
I think
Um
25% of all Bernie voters in the primaries,
yeah, I actually think I heard about that too. I forgot where I saw it on,
which is
but
still less, which is still less than what happened to Hillary Clinton. I think like 50% of all Hillary Clinton voters in 2008 voted for McCain, which is really funny considering how bad he lost.
oh wow.
But places like West Virginia came out for Hillary Clinton and did not like McCain, and did not like Obama. Probably having something to do with race, but also having to do with what he represented as the new elite liberal party. Because Bill Clinton really ushered in that elite liberalism, like
Uh-huh.
this technocratic idea. But Bill Clinton was also from Arkansas. Obama's from Chicago. He's from Illinois. Nobody likes that in West Virginia. We don't want a city slicker, but we can put up with Bill Clinton because he's a Southerner just like us. So I think that's why we saw a lot of Hillary Clinton voters. But yeah, people blame Bernie for making because 25% of all Bernie voters. But I don't think I think that is one of the smallest reasons why Hillary Clinton lost, obviously. But that's kind
Um
of beside what we're talking about.
yeah. What were we talking about?
Ideology and how you became a Donald Trump person even after you liked Bernie Sanders. I'm from North Carolina, by
um
the way.
DC's from West Virginia. Are you from? Yeah, I know.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and see whenever I think one of the only reasons why is because I had a friend of mine that basically it was during the 2016 primaries, except Trump, had already announced, and he held a rally in Fort Worth, and so it was like a few friends of mine um had gone, but they actually, they thought that I wouldn't want to go because, it's Donald Trump. Uh
Mhm.
and I was really into Bernie at the time. And then so like it was after, especially like right whenever the Democratic convention kind of started coming up. And that's whenever I really kind of started looking at it like, oh, the Democrats are actually pieces of garbage. Why should I even vote for them? Because they basically, screwed Bernie out of the nomination just because they wanted, a Clinton on the ticket again. They thought that
Mhm.
that's what was going to make them win, and then I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And then just after I kind of like, I guess, had a eye-opening experience with Trump, I kind of started uh doing more research. I started kind of like looking into uh wouldn't say conservative ideology, but I just kind of like, I kind of just saw more of it, I guess, the way it was. And I mean, I still hold a lot of socially liberal views. I
I
kind of
can
I
tell.
Yeah, I think it's a, and that's whenever I think a lot of people that have had discussions with me, they're just like you don't think that. And I'm kind of like the, I wouldn't say that I kind of identify as this, but I used to kind of like identify more as kind of like, the cringe social liberal fiscal conservative
Yeah.
piece of garbage kind of person. But I mean, even that isn't necessarily appealing anymore because some of my social views have kind of like uh, shifted, especially after this last year. Um,
Right.
and I think it's just a little more mellow now, and that's why I think like if you were to ask me, like I think that's why I think more of a right wing populist kind of like appeals more to me if I were to just kind of like pick one ideology. Because populism, I mean, like I think economics are a little more important than trying to like stride for progress every waking minute of the day.
Okay, this guy's yelling at me to answer what the verdict will be. But I agree. I mean, I don't really agree, actually. I think that culture in a lot of ways is more important than economics.
Yeah. Um. Do you know
But
why?
well, because I think I think that corrupt society will corrupt your economics no matter what, whereas corrupt economics don't really corrupt your society as quickly. I mean, they will, and they can, but it all starts at the church and with the family structure and stuff like this. And economics matter way more. Yeah, you're a socialist. You don't know what you're talking about. Um, like you just, I mean, Karl Marx and socialists in general, Frankfurt School and French philosophers have had terrible times trying to figure out how people act. I mean, it's like you guys are all socially autistic. Like you just don't understand people or the way groups of people function. It's like no wonder you're never right. No, you don't understand the human mind or the human wants or desires. Like it just doesn't make sense to socialists for some reason. They don't get it,
Yeah,
and I
and
think it's
kind of I wouldn't not really walk back, but like I'm not saying, like economics is always like, oh god, like economics like um I think at least until I can kind of like look at, cultural issues a little more clearly. I think it's just like because I basically understand what we're going through right now is some sort of culture war. And I know
well, yeah, but
there
yeah,
basically is a battle between cultures right now. And I think that's kind of like, because I don't want to stay away from it just because like, oh, I don't want to get involved just because of that. Because I think all of us are gonna have to uh not because like a civil war is coming or something, but I think all of us are gonna have to pick a side eventually. because
What we
all of
basically
this.
have. I mean, we've been forced to pick a side. That's what white silence is violence is. And white silence is violence. Pick your side. They're forcing you. You have to
Yeah,
pick your side.
and see that's what I really didn't like is and and again I know several people that basically are just like
You know,
if you're white and you're silent, then you're you're basically a piece of shit, and I'm just like, no, that's not how it works.
right? Like and I'm not silent. I'm actively opposed to BLM and stuff. So if white silence is violence, what am I doing? Am I like committing genocide? It's um yeah, but the church is the opium of the masses. Religion is the opium of the masses. Shut up, dude.
See, that's the other thing,
Go back to the 18th century, loser.
I've heard about that, like
I get
like
that's a Karl Marx quote. Yeah.
and I really hate how a lot of people now like literally just cannot stand religion and then just want to insult Christianity to like every waking moment. And then they
Mhm.
ignore things like the way Islam treats certain people, women, and then they basically want to look at everything as if it's like what do you call it, like they're all the same, even though that's not really the case. And I think some of them are very culturally ignorant.
Mhm.
And um, I think it's really wrong in some ways to say it, to just sit there and say like, oh, and I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm religious. I think I think I've talked to you about this once before, because I think you asked me whether I was religious or not, and
All
um,
right.
I was raised Christian. I was raised to kind of like believe in God. I kind of strayed away from it in a couple of different ways. I just didn't really see the point of religion. In some ways, especially like with what I've been going through as of recently, at least in the past year. I mean, I'm starting to see more of a point into religion, and I'm starting to see why a lot of people kind of like because a lot of people are raised into it, but then some people have like that what do you call it, like that I guess I've been saying this a lot, eye-opening moment where they're just like, oh, now it makes sense. And I think I'm starting to kind of have that realization.
Right.
So
Well,
um
I would say that the most important thing for any person to do is to get right with you know their spirituality because everybody's spiritual to an extent because at least from my point of view and from the real point of view and a Christian point of view, everybody must believe this to an extent. As a Christian, I recognize that there is spiritual warfare. I recognize the existence of the Holy Spirit, of demonic forces. I recognize the existence of, and to a lot of people that sounds way too supernatural, but that's just because society has dumbed down what that stuff even means. Like evil is real, good is real. Nietzsche was wrong. And so I think that that is probably one of the most important things. We've taken the church out of society in a lot of ways, the importance of religion, and we've started replacing it with the state. And so I think it's important for especially young right wingers, male or female, to understand the importance of their spiritual being and their soul, because your soul exists, and you can tell when people have a corrupt soul and a corrupt heart and are, uh, I want to say, people are the word escapes my mind unfortunately, but actively participating and continually indulging themselves in evil deeds, sinful nature. You can see it in their eyes, you can see it in the way they look at life, you can see it in the words they use, the phrases they say, and I think that if you get yourself right with God, then your life won't get better because James, the whole book of James is basically about like, hey man, your life is gonna suck. You got to struggle, but you'll be more fulfilled. Like you'll have peace in your life, which is what I told you guys last stream. Everybody was saying, you're a very pessimistic person, David. David, you're very pessimistic. It's like actually I'm not. because I know how this all happens. Yeah, so you have peace through Christ, I think, and I don't want to evangelize too much, but yeah, religion's important, and the fact that we're replacing it with the state religion of science, and I've never heard a leftist even disagree with this idea. They'll just ignore it. Um, we say that leftism is a religion, wokeness is a religion. They worship the state. They have ritual ceremonies like getting on their knees and chanting BLM, BLM, or whatever they chant. Voting is like their Passover event where they eat the bread and drink the wine. But it's incredibly odd how it's happening, and so you might say that religion is the opium of the masses or whatever, but it's going to be there. Like if you replace religion then with science, which by the way, science doesn't mean science. What you're going to end up with is like the same amount of obfuscation and confusion and people being misled and led astray. Even more so than with religion. And religion can be corrupted, by the way. Like God's church will always exist because it's mandated in the Bible, and it says that this church will always exist, but there will be elements of it that are led astray, and so that's always been true. But ultimately, man's ideas of science are going to lead you astray, I think, much quicker than this. And I have my laptop actually relying on my one of my Bibles right here. I've sat my laptop on it. But I think that this 2,000-year-old text is going to guide you much better than Dr. Fauci.
Yeah. Anyway, so sorry for getting us into a little bit of a religious discussion there, but
It's what I do. I plan on going to seminary, so there's
seminary,
a
what is it?
it's a Bible college basically. It's
Oh, really?
we're learning to be a minister or something.
I think I have
It's one of the many things I want to do.
Huh, that's actually really cool. I have a friend of mine that goes to Boise State, but
Mm.
he's a Mormon. I don't know your thoughts on Mormons or anything, but
I mean, they're wrong. They're a part of the church that has been led astray. But Mormons as people, I know a few. They don't bother me.
I saw something earlier, and this is I like how we're going from
I have two
uh
Bibles.
I actually have one. Do you have a which and before I go on to this next one, do you have the King James version, New International?
I have one that is sitting right here. Is I can't read it because it's backwards, so I don't know what that one is. I don't use that one that much. But the Bible I use the most is a double column Bible. It's ESV, which is English Standard Version. It's what we use at my church, and it has a really nice, it has the column of text, and then next to it, it has a place which is on. I'll see you later, Vladimir Putin. Thanks for joining the stream. But I really enjoyed the ESV, but the New King James Version is better. The King James Version isn't good. It's kind of also corrupted, and there will be people that tell me I'm going to hell for saying that, but those people are also corrupted, so there's that.
Um, I saw a question about earlier, and so going from religion to this next topic, and I think I saw you had a stream with Red Eagle and what was that other guy?
Settlers Lament.
Yeah, Settlers Lament, and y'all actually had a discussion about this. Someone in the chat actually asked about accelerationism, and so I guess we could talk a little bit about that. The thing about accelerationism, and I actually kind of agree with what you said on that stream. If you remember, remember what you said?
No, actually, I said pacifism is a form of accelerationism. I think but other than that, no, I don't remember what I said. What did I say?
Actually, I think it was a Settler's Lament that said it.
Right, but doing evil for the purpose of
Accelerating, like,
accelerating the good result is still
yeah,
evil because you're still committing evil acts. I agree.
yeah.
That is very salient and true.
I think
Mm.
that's basically my thoughts on accelerationism is like, and I mean, I don't necessarily, I'm not really like that much researched in accelerationism, but all I know about it is basically it's like you like basically if you want like a theocracy, then you basically do everything that you can, no matter how many are in your way, and then you uh like basically accelerate it into the way that you want it to be. But I necessarily, and it was Red Eagle DC perspective and this other guy Sutler's Lament that had this conversation the other day, and I was watching a stream, and I basically kind of agree with what he said, is that it's basically, I think it's more evil to kind of like look at it as more of a um uh, uh basically like if
Well,
you want to, huh,
it's the ultimate question: do the ends justify the means?
yeah.
Like, I could make a really really good society if we just kill all the criminals and all the people that might do bad stuff, but that's obviously not moral. Like, that doesn't justify the good result. Committing evil in the pursuit of justice is inherently unjust. Like, it's not okay, and that's what Settler's Lament was saying, and he's incredibly correct. Like, voting for someone who is pro-abortion in order to accelerate the collapse of the country is evil. Like,
If I could actually ask, do you think that groups that are alive, like, do you basically think that like I wouldn't say modern day liberalism, but just what's going on right now, do you think that what's going on right now in terms of what the left is doing, um everything, do you think that's some form of accelerationism?
well, there's definitely the accelerationism is much exists much stronger on the left than it does on the right. And even the accelerationism that exists on the right is done by a group of like Nazis and Wignats,
Yep.
which are inherently like leftists in a lot of ways. Um, so there is some accelerationist tendencies on the left. Uh, but no, I think ultimately, like, and you're referring to like Antifa and stuff, right?
I'm talking about like Antifa, BLM, uh, certain groups that are, I guess, just alive and well, maybe to an extent. I mean, for example, like what's going on in like Oregon, in Portland, kind of something like that. Basically, it's like my point was like with what we see now with a lot of people, they basically, want what they want. Like with the Derek Chauvin trial, for example, we're basically looking at it as if, if we don't get our way, then we are going to basically force everyone else to be scared of the result if you don't do what we say. And then so, and again, I may be wrong, but that's what I was kind of like curious about, is whether you kind of thought, I don't necessarily think this, but I was kind of like, it's just more of kind of like throwing it out there, if you kind of thought that what's going on now is just some form of accelerationism.
Well, accelerating towards what exactly? It's like you got to establish accelerationism requires an end goal. I think most things require an end goal, but especially accelerationism, like you have to have an idea of what you're accelerating towards.
Racial
So I think
equity in some cases.
right. So the left, racial equity, sure. Um, but on the right, the idea that they're accelerating towards is like the collapse of society, so that a new society can take its place, a better, more conservative one that is post-liberal, and monarchy or whatever. Well, okay, sure. Um, I think that on the left, though, it's like the people online that are on the left are not accelerationists in the slightest. And Antifa is if anything, Antifa is accelerating the collapse of the United States. I don't think they're accelerating towards what they think they're doing. If they're accelerationists and they want to accelerate towards a proletariat uprising and the new coming of the United States, like People's Republic or whatever, their Soviet America, whatever it is they have in mind, racial equity. That's not what they're getting. Um, that's not what they're headed towards. That might be what they have in mind, but it's not what they're getting. So no, I don't. I just don't. I don't think accelerationism inherently works. And I've never spoken to someone who is an accelerationist for an extended amount of time to pick their mind apart, like I do a lot of other people in ideological camps. So I don't know. But if they are, they're not being successful at it, unless their end goal is the collapse of America. And I guess in a way it is, but I don't think it's what they have in mind, what they're doing.
Yeah.
No, they're not. Yeah, yeah. I mean, no, no, I don't think they're successful accelerationists.
Alright. We've been streaming for about an hour and a half. I know you said you didn't want to stream for, I guess, too long. Do you want
No, we
to?
can
So
go
you're
ahead.
good with continuing on?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Okay. Uh, do you mind if I actually step away for like 30 seconds? That way, I can go get some water, something like that.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to entertain the masses. Um, yo, what's up? Uh, I've got a Discord. I just put the link in the chat. I think you might be able to get it if you copy and paste or something. But if you can't, you can go to my channel. I have a link tree in the description of all my videos. You can join my Discord there. If you're leftist, I'm not going to let you in. I'm going to ban you. I don't like you. I don't like your ideology. So there's that. You can also follow me at the DC Perspective, Son of Carl on Twitter. I have a Gab. I have a Telegram, which you should follow as well. You can get all of the links to these locations in my link tree, which is in the description box of my YouTube videos. And I also have to use the bathroom, like pretty bad. You can tell I've been drinking. I had coffee. Now I'm on to water. I've been drinking water this whole time, and I've got to use the restroom as well. So why don't I like leftists? It, I just don't like the type of conversation that I have with leftists on my Discord server. My Discord server is a place for like-minded individuals. So that's it. All right. This guy, you're Norwegian, bro. You're from a shithole country. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not America, which means it's not good. That's what it means. Oh, you're not American? Opinion invalid? No, I'm joking. It's probably because we talk about economic issues too much. No, I talk a lot about economics as well. I don't have a problem with talking about economics. I think you misinterpret what I mean. Uh, I just think that they're not the most important thing. I'm thinking about eating this muffin.
Come back and you're just showing everyone your muffins.
Nah, I'm not gonna eat it. It has 440 calories in it. Jesus Christ. That's like my diet. I've been losing. I've been working out. I've been making gains. Um, that's like way too much. But I've also got to step away for a moment, so I'm going to turn off my camera.
Okay.
Now that you're back.
I'll entertain the masses as well.
Yeah, that's your job, buddy.
That's my channel. I'm just kidding. Anyway, you guys see that Discord overlay? Love OBS. There's another different what do you call it? Stream thing. I saw Red Eagle using it the other day. That it's called like a Stream Deck or something like that. So I'm gonna. No, that's like a hardware or something. Good job entertaining us, PG. Yeah, that's what I'm for. That's what I'm for. Hopefully DC was entertaining y'all. we're basically kind of still waiting for the trial verdict of the Derek Chauvin trial. StreamYard. That's it. Thank you, Red. Thank you, Red, White, and Ben. I was going to super chat this day, but not today. Damn. Come on, AMN. Waiting for you to super chat. Impress everyone with your 250 knocks. I don't know what your currency's called, but for those who are watching right now, like if you guys want us to kind of like talk about anything, if there's anything of interest that that you guys are looking at, I mean, it could be about like geopolitics, it could be about um remember to board your windows before the verdict. Yep. I'm going to be prepared for the peaceful protests that break out. I mean, maybe we could actually talk about that, like about. I mean, are these like will you ever do a face reveal? I've done like several face reveals. You guys just don't pay attention whenever I do the face reveal. Whenever I hit 5,000 subscribers, I think I'm gonna try to do a podcast. Um, Send me DC's Discord if you're in it. I'm actually not. Did he post it? I thought he did. I thought I heard him saying something about it.
Yeah, I did. YouTube may have not accepted it though.
Damn it. If you could actually invite me to it, and then I could actually.
Oh yeah, of course.
Um.
Are you based in red pilled enough? I don't know.
I'm probably not.
I'm
I don't know.
I'm joking. Sure, fine. Yeah, let me figure out how to use Discord. I'm kind of a boomer when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I refused to use Discord for like a solid year after it became big, and then I guess I just kind of got into it, and then ever since then it's just kind of been a rabbit hole.
That makes sense. I turned my face cam back on if you want to fix the camera, whatever.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and join back.
Yeah, I don't know what whatever you want to do. It's up to you. I'm just hanging out at this point, waiting for this conviction or acquittal, this verdict.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. For some reason, I joined your Discord and it's like not letting it load for me. I'll try it later. All right, let's go back. All right, there
a lot
we go.
of new members. Okay, just doing some stuff, checking my emails. No, not really. I just got accepted. My application to rent out an apartment, so I'm excited. I'm gonna be moving in June or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which should be good. Should be good. Working on changing my residence, set up a corporation because I'm working. You know the Jackson Project?
Yeah, I think so.
That guy. Okay. Yeah, that's me for the most part. What's up, Beach Day? Welcome back.
Do you run the Jackson Project?
Yeah, we're trying to go corporate. So we're trying to start a 501c4.
Really?
Kind of similar to the NRA. Yeah, I'm establishing a board of directors and we're having meetings like once a week now, and so that's what we're working on. And so being in Virginia for that is going to be good. And I guess I just doxed myself, or my state. Frick, I didn't plan to do that. But yeah, so I guess keep it under wraps or whatever. But that's what I'll be pretty close to DC, closer than I am now. So that'll be good.
Don't be what do you call it? Capital stormer or whatever.
An insurrectionist.
But that's do you want to tell us about the Jackson Project? I actually didn't know that you were a part of that.
Yeah, no, I've kind of taken it over from Real American in a lot of ways. The Jackson Project is an organization that is meant to counter the Lincoln Project, obviously, and the influence and work in the same direction, or work in the same the same way, but in the opposite direction. So instead of pushing the Conservative Party further to the left um, against populist nationalism, we want to push it back more in the right wing direction, more in the, I guess you could even say, the economic liberal direction, because we are not as libertarian, economically speaking, as Donald Trump or people like that. So that's what we want to do. We plan to endorse and promote candidates. We want to have a place at CPAC. We have some connections that we're working with. Goodbye, Red, White, and Ben. Have a good one. We're so that's what the Jackson Project is. We want to run like advertisements, basically, fight the establishment wherever we can, and promote good primary candidates against like people like Liz Cheney and stuff.
That's actually really interesting. Because I mean, I'm a shill, and I follow Red Eagle most of the time, and I noticed that he was kind of like collabing with the Jackson Project, but I kind of knew what it was, but I didn't really I wasn't really like, I guess, familiar with what they were, but I did know that they were basically kind of like saying like these are the primary candidates that we want. Um,
Yeah, it's been inactive on the social media because of what we're doing behind the scenes right now, but I want to get it active again on the social media pretty soon here. Good moves are being made, but that's the state of the Jackson Project and what we're doing, and I think it's gonna be good. And no, I haven't boarded up my windows because I don't, I live in the country, so I don't have to worry, about, or I should say, in the rural parts of the country, I don't have to worry about that stuff for the most part.
yeah, I'm watching. Looks like that. I guess Red Eagle is even prepared for it. He's actually live streaming the verdict right now. So
With 600 viewers,
yeah, usually
that's
he's
pretty
around
good
like,
for, yeah, like 200 or 300 or
yeah, like
400.
that's a pretty
But
good for
I
like a
always try
non-election
to get
stream.
them. Yeah, I always try to get them to stream in the midday because he live streams at like 11 o'clock at night. Everybody's asleep. Like most normal people are asleep.
Is he in
Um,
Eastern or in probably
he's
Eastern?
in he's in Michigan. I think he's in Eastern time.
Yeah, yeah. I always notice like that he streams pretty late into the night. Sometimes I mean I see him still live at like 12:30, and I'm just like, why are you still up?
Wow.
Like,
How do you think I feel when I'm like co-hosting the streams? It's like I wake up at 7 every morning. I do my walk, I do my workout, and I'm like having to stay up until 12 o'clock to to co-host these streams with him. I'm like drinking coffee at 6 in the evening.
just like you
uh,
gotta stay up.
it looks like Derek Chauvin has arrived in the courtroom.
All
Um,
right, all right. Looks like our topic of discussions now finally circling back to Derek Chauvin.
yeah, no, it
Um,
was supposed to come out. It was supposed to come out at 2:30 p.m. local time, and then pushed back the verdict all the way until 4:30 or 5. Um,
um,
I guess what happens. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any predictions? Acquittal, guilty verdict?
yeah. See, that's what I was gonna ask you. Um, I think personally,
I'm the host now. I've taken over your show.
um, personally, I think that it's kind of like, if that and that's the thing, like, what are they really doing it on him? I mean, it's like a manslaughter charge, a murder charge, and like, what are the charges against him?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention.
Neither have I.
I just know that they wanna persecute the guy. They wanna lynch him. So I don't know. That's what I know. Uh, and as far as like, does he get convicted? I don't think it matters actually. I think there's going to be riots either way. People are way too ready for the riots for there not to be riots. Um,
Just like, oh, he's guilty. Oh, we're just gonna like go like tear up the street now. Um, God, I still think that's stupid that they do that. I think personally, I kind of feel like that he's gonna be plead guilty. Maybe he won't. I mean, I think because I have like family that was chief of police in the police force and all that, and so that's actually like one of the things that kind of got me into like law politics. um I really think like if he's going to be guilty, it's very likely just going to be of manslaughter. I don't think that murder is really what they're going to get him on. I mean, he may plead not guilty to murder, but he's going to plead guilty to manslaughter, because manslaughter is basically like it's your negligence that led to the death of someone. So yeah, I mean, he's very likely to plead guilty. I think I would be pretty surprised if he pleads not guilty to all charges, or if they just acquit him entirely.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I hope either way, I want justice to be carried out, and I hope that rule of law wins and that people understand the verdict and don't riot and everybody's nice to each other and we can all sing kumbaya and smoke pot or whatever. By the way, if you smoke pot, you're degenerative. I don't like you. But obviously, that's not what's going to happen. Because as we talked about at the beginning of the stream, that's not what happens anymore. You know, this is 2020, right? We're living in the modern world, or 2021. In the modern world, we just beat each other up and, you know, cause fights. And so fingers crossed that things go well.
Yeah, honestly, that's really what
But
I want in the end. Like like I wouldn't necessarily say it stresses me out. It makes me very upset and sad to see like our
the
great
collapse
cities
of
on
Western
fire.
civilization.
Yeah, that too.
Collapse of Western civilization stress you out. What? Yeah, it should. You know, because you have a soul and you care. You know, people that don't care are like borderline demonic. I mean, I don't know how you can sit here and watch the most, you know, successful, most advanced, most moral society eat itself alive and not feel some type of anguish. Like it shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
So being upset about what's happening is normal, and I think is, you know, a prerequisite for being a normal person. Like no person that is normal should be able to watch what's happening in our society today and go, yeah, this is pretty good. You know, everybody should feel some type of discontent with the system.
Necessarily, do you think that the system is broken? Like, do you think that what we're dealing with is a broken system? Like, what do you think that there should be any changes to the policing system in general?
Um, yeah, they should all wear like hoods and masks so we don't have lynch mobs anymore. No, I'm joking. No, I don't think so. I think we need to be more tough on crime, and we let perps walk too much in a lot of these cities,
Yeah,
and that's
I kind of
part.
see that.
That's partly because of the George Soros Open Society Foundation funding attorney generals and prosecutors in these cities to run. And I mean, there's been loads of stories on this talking about this. Um, you know, they're just letting people off the hook, and this idea that the police are systemically racist is dumb and not based in reality. And no reforms need to be made to the police. Reforms need to be made to our society at large. Like we have problems with everything else, and I'm sure the police do have some problems. They need to be trained better in a lot of ways. Maybe there shouldn't be women on the force that get, you know, Berettas are confused with tasers. Like, that's stupid. You shouldn't be dumb enough to do that, even in a high stress scenario. If you're yelling taser, taser, and then you pull out a pistol and shoot a guy, I don't blame her.
Yeah, see, that's the only
If
thing
I was in
about.
that situation, if I was in that situation, I probably would have pulled out my pistol and shot the guy too. I mean, do you know how many cops die because people like pull them alongside of the truck or the car that you're in? Like, that is probably one of the like these roadside fatalities that happen for cops. Is I mean, that's where most of them actually die. It's not like they get into massive gang shootouts or whatever. Loads of cops die. It's a high stress situation, and the dude is in probably one of the most deadly mechanisms ever created by human beings: a vehicle, a car. Loads of people die in cars, by cars. Um, and but the fact that you thought you were reaching for your taser and then you pulled out a gun just shows that you're incompetent, you know what you're doing, and maybe you shouldn't be the person behind.
See, that's the thing about that is I actually had this conversation with someone, and they basically said like how can you not tell the difference between a taser and a gun? And I'm just like, okay, like your adrenaline is pumping. You're sitting there like trying to not have them drag you off in your car. And by the way, Red Eagle's stream apparently just died. Uh but uh
I'm
but
some
yeah,
prayers now.
like I actually kind of agree with what you said, is that basically it's, yeah, you're about to be dragged off. And necessarily, I don't really necessarily think, I mean, even just looking at the video, I necessarily can kind of tell that that she did not mean to shoot him with this gun, because she was like taser, taser, taser. And you can't really. And even and I had this conversation, even if she wanted to, if she were to take the time to try to put her gun away and then try to take her taser out again, that's like 3 seconds that guy would be able to take action against you and either drag you off in his car or something like. So, and
Yeah, I mean, no, it's a high, but women shouldn't be on the police force.
why do you think that?
Women aren't women aren't physically equipped.
Do you think that they
They have,
shouldn't be in like the military and the police, or?
yeah, yeah. No, I think that, like, imagine if it was a woman dealing with George Floyd and not a guy. George Floyd would have been able to overpower her, and I mean, this happens all the time. I don't think that women. I mean, women should be in operating. They could be in faculty positions, um, and in the military they can be in. I don't have a problem with women being like on a boat or a ship, but out in the combat roles, or they can be pilots. I think in a lot of ways, because but physically speaking, I think that it is a disgrace for society, biologically the weaker of the sexes, to do things that put them in harm's way. I don't think that's a good thing to do. I think that we should have strong people that are physically capable fighting our fights.
See, I can kind of like disagree with you there, because like I think what I really don't want is for them to kind of like reduce the like if a man has to like do like all of this PT to join the military, and then like a woman comes in. I don't think that they should like reduce the needs for that. If you're standing by like the need for something for so long, and then introduce women into that kind of field, and necessarily I don't think they should be blocked from doing it, but I think that they should be held to the same standards as men are.
Yeah, no, I agree. They should be held to the same standards if they are going to be let in, but unfortunately, they're not, um, because they can be, because women in most cases can't reach the same standards. We have to make exceptions. And I know people in chat are saying some chicks are physically on par with men, though. Yeah, maybe weak men. I don't know many women that are physically on par with me. Maybe in cardio, because I'm not much of a cardio guy, but I lift more than women. I'm stronger than women. There's not many women that could physically take me. And if they can, it's because they have a tactical advantage because they've been trained in the military or something. Um, and they know how to use my weight and my advantage against me. But if I was trained in a similar fashion, then I'd be able to take them easily. And so assuming that they're going out and fighting another army or a criminal, um, maybe it's not so smart, to have women, and saying that you can get taken by a woman is just embarrassing. Why would you embarrass yourself like that? What woman can take you? You weigh 187 pounds, which is what 85 kilos is, I believe, or something like that. Hit the gym, bro. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I think a lot of people need to hit the gym after COVID.
Yeah, no, I'm one of them. I mean, I was fit before COVID. Last August, I quit my job. I used to work at a farm, and uh, I was in good shape because there was a lot of work. Uh, went to hell though. But I've started again, like I said earlier. Well, come on, when are they gonna be releasing this stuff?
I know, right? Just
What
like,
the hell, bros? Cope? You're coping. What do you mean? What the hell? How is it not obvious what I just said? Why are you confused? Why are you confused by what I said?
I think it's like, yeah, see, that's one of the things, like, especially like after COVID, and I mean, I live in a place that like has a gym right next to it. I think I need to set an appointment for it or whatever. What I really want to
Yeah.
do is I really need to do that. I think, and I'm only starting to realize it now, um, because I wasn't really, one of the biggest, I don't know, just it didn't seem, I guess, enticing or something. But now, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you guys, for those who are listening, if you're not hitting the gym, go hit the gym. Like,
Or at least like I don't go to a gym. I just walk for 30 minutes every morning, and then I have dumbbells, and I do dumbbell workouts for like 28 minutes.
that's actually what
Well,
I
that's what
need
I'm.
to do. I need to get some
Yeah, no.
dumbbells.
Yeah, get a bench and buy some dumbbells. You can get really good dumbbells for $200 to $300, adjustable dumbbells. Don't get plastic ones. Get metal ones because the plastic ones are typically cheap. Um, and I'm not saying that women can't be physically capable of taking on a man, but I'm saying that you should not be like it should be like the 10th percentile of women. Like if you are able to be beat up by more than 50% of women, you are an embarrassing person. You are not fulfilling your role as a man. Men are meant to be strong, physically, emotionally, mentally. Like you have natural biological callings. People men have when we were hunter gatherers, we were supposed to be strong, and it is a it's natural, it's biological, it's in our genetics. So come on, I don't want to be like bullying too many people, but at least working towards a better version of yourself. Yeah, we already talked about whether we thought Derek Chauvin was going to be guilty. I said I have no clue. I haven't been following the court case. For me, he's not guilty. Evolution, even believe in evolution, know for that the rate at which humans have changed over the last thousands of years is not the rate at which evolution takes place. Evolution cannot adapt that quickly to something. So you can say, well, we evolved out of that. No, actually, we haven't.
See, that's one of the other things. I mean, uh, going from Derek Chauvin to evolution. Um, God,
Well,
I love podcasts. Um,
yeah, unscripted ones are great.
yeah. See, I think unscripted is a little bit better because it kind of like there's a little bit more free reign instead of just just sticking to one thing, because sometimes you can run out of things to say about that topic, and then you're like, wait, what the hell are we doing? There's a couple of them. I think there's going to be a couple of them where I think it does make sense to script them, but I don't know. I like to have these where it's just basically just kind of like more of a conversation instead of a just like
You know, I agree, and the best thing is that you're actually good at it too,
me.
which is why I wanted. To, yeah, you're good at this. Like you are good at engaging in the person you're talking to. There are some podcasters that just talk past their guests, and it's deeply frustrating. And I've done it before.
I've had yeah, see, I've had several I think podcasts before where it was basically sometimes whenever I would be talking and then I get talked over and I'm just like, all right, just go ahead. I've had many conversations, especially over Discord and everything, where it's just basically like, but that's actually what I like to do, and I appreciate that you say that I'm actually good at it because sometimes I actually don't think I'm good at it.
No, I think you are. I think that compared to other things I've interacted with in the past, I think you're a good interview. Um, but it really comes down to this: are you capable of listening? Like listening to people. In when you are when you are talking to someone, are you too busy thinking about what you're going to say next, or are you consuming what they're saying? Actively listening means that you're capable of regurgitating what they said to you in a short form sentence or two. Like, and once I had one of my mentors, tell me that in a meeting I was having with him, he was like, "Bro, you don't listen to people." And I was like 16 or 17 at the time, and I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You don't listen to people." And I brushed it off. I said, "Yeah, I do. I listen to people." And then he said it again a little bit later, and I said, "That's not true. I listen to people." And then again, it came up, and I was like, I kind of, I think you're right. And at that point, he told me what it meant to listen to, and it's tough for young guys to do that because our minds work in ordinary ways. But you have to be capable of understanding and consuming what it is the other person is saying. And if you have questions, obviously that's one thing. But if you're not even capable of grasping what they're saying, not because you lack information or lack the understandings of the words that they're using, but for another reason, like you're too busy thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, that's not actively listening. And so many people, especially in like debates, they'll hear one thing and they'll like hone in on that and be thinking about what they're going to say to respond to that and not hear what it is that the other person is saying. And I think that you, whether you're subconsciously or not, I think you're an active listener. And so I think that's what makes you good at hosting podcasts and stuff.
See, that's the thing is, and I think like a lot of things that's been happening in the past year with just with how basically all of us are uh a lot of people don't want to listen to each other. I mean, there's been maybe half a dozen things that you've kind of said like while we've been on here where like I disagree with you, but like that's why I kind of like ask you like why do you think that? Like why do you do that? And I
Mm.
think it's important even if you like disagree with them. I've had conversations with legitimate Nazis and I I would and I've had this kind of like I mean I've had these conversations over the past couple of years. I mean I haven't recently talked to a Nazi, so don't cancel me for those who are listening. Um, but it's like and I've been told this before, so I appreciate that you've actually I guess like noticed it or whatever. But
Yeah.
uh, I guess I have a talent for listening to people, and I have like I just like to listen, and sometimes like even on my podcasts, I mean I'm barely talking, but I'm just kind of like more listening to the person that I kind of have on than anything, and so I just like to hear people out, and that's actually really what I like about this podcast, I guess, is because I like to have people who have different opinions. I like to have
Mm.
people, and I mean, like with that debate that I guess debate you could call it with Tatrimi and you. I mean, both of y'all were complete polar opposites, And I mean, I just like to listen to people, like, even if I disagree with them, whether they're a Nazi, whether they're a communist or paleo conservative or whatever. Like, I think it's important to listen.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree that it is important to listen, and there's so many people that don't, and it's incredibly prevalent online and within ideological communities because people think that they know what they're talking about. And they're so certain of themselves. And obviously, I think it was Aristotle that said, "The only thing I know for sure is that I know nothing." And once you adopt that attitude of, okay, everybody I'm talking to is capable of teaching me something, which is like one of Jordan Peterson's sayings or something. It's like once you adopt that attitude, then you're able to adapt adequately, and you'll realize that there's um, a lot more going on than what you think. Let's see. I Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler has declared a state of emergency.
Oh boy.
Because BLM and Antifa have flyers out calling for violence no matter what happens. There was a censure vote. There was a there was a censure vote against Maxine Waters, which failed.
Oh, they tried to do that today?
Yeah,
Oh, that
it failed.
sucks.
Every Democrat voted against it. Um, Democrats are fine with Democratic politicians inciting violence, evidently. DC does not like to listen to others. His Discord proves that. LMAO. I mean, yeah, I guess actually that's true. I just don't like listening to you. Yeah, amen.
This chat turned on DC fast. I haven't even been paying attention to chat.
No, no, they haven't. He just says that he's not American. My ancestors migrated from Scandinavia. Why didn't yours, loser? Mao.
Um, I actually have a lot of I took a DNA test and like most of it comes from like Germany, the British Isles, Norway, um little bit of little bit comes out of northern Italy.
Hey.
um for some reason, like, I have a couple of family members that apparently immigrated from Sicily, but then apparently ancestry doesn't say that I'm like Sicilian or whatever.
Sicilian. Yeah. Weird. That's weird.
Yeah, no. Like it said it for a little bit, and then like they updated it again. And it's like, oh, you're not Sicilian anymore, and I'm like, okay. There was something I was gonna say a minute ago. Oh, it was about like I think we had this conversation earlier uh, about what do you call it? Me being kind of like socially liberal, like fiscally conservative, cringe. Um,
Yeah.
See, even saying it like that, I don't necessarily think that that's how I think it is, because talking about what we were talking about a minute ago kind of reminded me about it. It's like I like to listen to a lot of people. I'm a very, like, yeah, I guess you would say it. I never thought about it before, but you kind of saying it now. I guess I am an active listener because some of my political opinions kind of do come from kind of like I listen and read a lot, and then whenever I, like, I guess formulate whatever opinion I have, it's kind of like a combination. So instead of, just like only looking at one specific side or something like that, I like to take it from like the round table and then formulate what I have.
Yeah. Hmm.
Apparently the
Uh,
jury
that's the
entered the courtroom.
Heel base. Are blacks in Scandinavia? I'm sure there's some blacks in Scandinavia, but not many. I mean, it's a European place. But there's a lot of immigrants in places like Sweden and Denmark, but I don't, you know, man, what? We've been going for a while.
Yeah, no.
Just went,
I know you said you didn't want to. Oh wow, we have been going for a while. I know you said you
yeah.
didn't want to do
It's
that,
been
but
it's been a good talk though.
yeah, it has.
Wow, I was waiting for like Minneapolis to become a barbecue, but now I think they're gonna I think they're gonna announce it real soon. They gotta.
They have to. Yeah, I think they're going to be announcing in the next couple of minutes. Um, Let me look. Yeah, I'm looking at kind of like taking a page out of Red Eagle's book. I'm watching the New York Times right now.
All of Twitter considers themselves legal experts at this moment. What's your thoughts on China and Hong Kong? I don't care, to be honest. It was the
Really?
domain of the. I mean, it was the UK's domain. They got screwed over partly because of the Americans and partly because of the Chinese, and you know, and now Hong Kong is going to be under authoritarian control, just like the rest of China. And I guess just how. And what are we going to do? We're going to like go and send in the Ranger special forces of Hong Kong? No. So
Yeah. See, that's the thing about it. I saw something about what was it? Um, the UK basically said that China's in non-compliance with the agreement that they made on Hong Kong, and I'm just like, okay, like you say they're in non-compliance, but what are you gonna do after? What's next? Like, are you gonna send in the MI6 and seize Hong Kong like the Russians did in Crimea? Like, but no, that's not gonna happen. They're basically just, and that's one of the things that like I think what's happening in Hong Kong is like it's disgusting, but then at the same time, what are we gonna do about it?
what's disgusting about it? What's happening? That's disgusting.
I mean, it's basic. I mean, they basically had this agreement with the UK that they would respect their freedoms, respect their rights and everything for 50 years beyond uh the handover they call it.
Mhm.
And they were supposed to basically not what we're seeing in Hong Kong now, that was not supposed to happen until 2047.
Yeah, but it was going to happen anyway. So why,
Yeah.
why care? Sorry, I'm about to like cough up a storm here.
Um yeah, and see that's one of the things about it. It's like with how powerful China has been getting,
I'm
that's
dying.
are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just got
um
some allergies.
like I saw this one documentary. I forgot who's from but they basically like whenever Hong Kong was handed over to the Chinese, it was basically like a quarter of their economy. And then now like the GDP that comes out of Hong Kong, I mean, that is amplified by like almost every major city or even minor city with more than 1 million people in China. I mean, basically every city in China right now is Hong Kong. And so that's the reason why the Chinese have been doing it. And I mean, I
And
really don't.
I don't blame them for seizing Hong Kong or getting Hong Kong back because, like Rowan Murdoch says, Hong Kong is a part of the Sino civilization, and it's inevitable. Like it's ethnically their people, and they want to. If you're Chinese or you're Sino, you want to govern over the Sino people, the same way that the Orthodox civilization, which is dominated by Russia, wants to govern over the Russian people in the Ukraine. I mean, this is the natural, realistic reality of politics. The realistic reality. This is the realistic, outcome of all political theory, which is, it the religious aspects, the linguistic aspect matter a whole lot more than the economic aspect. And whether Rowan Murdoch knows it or not, that's what he just admitted to. Because Hong Kong was a functioning and is a functioning, as far as I know, a semi-capitalist society, which is now being integrated into a country that is market capital, or I think what do they call it, like state capitalism, which is heavily
Yeah.
controlled by and regulated by uh, the Chinese government, and they don't care. What matters is that what language the Hong Kong people speak, what religion, what religious practices they have. I'm sure I'm sure there's a large swath of different types of religions in Hong Kong because of the colonialization that took place. I'm sure there's a lot of Christians, but I'm sure it's majority. Um, yeah, like China's all of them, all of the above, right? I'm sure it's majority Confucius, and so they are Chinese in a sense. They are Sino, and so the Sino civilization says, "Hey, we want this land," and the UK goes, "Well, they're not really our people, so whatever. I have no vested interest in them." But now, I think Boris Johnson is talking about taking in 400,000. So Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley. It's like, what are you guys doing? They screwed up their own land. Now you want to let them come here and like become American? It's not going to work.
Are they going to announce the verdict yet? Or come on. You can see people
Yeah,
huh?
everybody's on Twitter talking about it. Come on, just announce the verdict already.
See, that's one of the things, like, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it. What I really hate is like how the media basically does it for like a goes live and they're like, it's about to happen, it's about to happen. They make you watch it like just like the Great Seal of the state of Minnesota for like 3 hours before they even announce it.
I'm sorry, I missed everything you just said.
I'm just talking out of my ass.
Oh.
I basically just said like I hate how the media basically like says it's about to happen, it's about to happen, and then they just make you stare at the Great Seal of the state of Minnesota for like 3 hours before they'd even do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. And I think that there's a contingent in American right wing politics that believe that like China is super awesome and that they believe in like the Sino futurism where we can become like integrated into China and adopt a lot of their like societal outlooks and stuff. It's such BS. It's never gonna work. It's you know the
I've actually
it's a
never heard of
co
that.
it's like there's this one guy on Twitter who's been suspended, but his name was like Lewis. He was the same guy that argued that we should allow amnesty for hot Argentinian women.
Yeah. I
You know,
think
so he had like 8,000.
the judge is
He
finally
had like
on. I
eight.
think they're about to do it.
All right, based. Thank gosh. How do I listen?
For those who are listening right now, I do have it muted, so you guys should be able to hear the audio.
All rise for the jury.
They're announcing it's happening. It's go time. Duh. Well, watching this like a bunch of like steals. It's embarrassing, honestly.
I know.
All right, please be seated.
It's happening.
Members of the jury, I
Everybody get the
understand you have
nukes ready. Get to the bunker. Someone sound the alarm.
Start putting up your peaceful protest boards. I'm gonna call it now. They're gonna charge him in manslaughter, but not murder.
I think
Members
Van
of the
Jones
jury, I
is
will now
trying
read the
again.
verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District.
No, he's just
State of
on the
Minnesota,
TV.
County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th
The
Judicial District,
judges.
State of Minnesota Plaintiff.
What's happening?
versus
It's
Derek
like the
Michael
Hunger Games,
Chauvin,
but only
defendant.
or like a
Verdict,
later
count 1.
version of
Court
the
file
Hunger
number
Games.
27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror 4person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 27, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 44, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 52, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 55, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 79, are these your true and correct verdicts?
I can't. This is hilarious.
Juror number 85, are these your true and
This is
correct
hilarious.
verdicts?
Yes.
This is hilarious.
Juror number 89, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 91, are
turning
these your
down.
true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
There we go.
Juror number 92, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Are these your verdicts, so say you one, so say you all?
Yes.
Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be filed accordingly. I have to thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota for not only jury service, but heavy-duty jury service. What I'm going to ask you to do now is to follow the deputy back into your usual room, and I will
Damn
join
it.
you in 2 minutes to answer.
All right, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's hilarious, and it's true. And whether he's guilty or not, it doesn't really matter. Guilty on all counts, and third-degree murder, really weird stuff. Clearly, he's, it is what it is. I think that it's a hard case to say that he is guilty on third degree, at least, and even second degree. But that's what the court found, and it just goes to show, in my opinion, what I was already talking about when it comes to the rule of law. And this is like the same thing with and I'm gonna make a video about this, so I don't want to spill all my beans quite yet. But there's a lot to be said about the influence of the media in this situation and how
Absolutely.
everything worked. And I think you can make a lot of comparisons to like the Rudy Giuliani stuff, when everybody was talking about how oh my gosh, all this is one state, Wisconsin needs to, and it's just the first domino, and then Donald Trump's going to be declared the president, MAGA, or whatever, during the Stop the Steal rallies and everything. And I got caught up in a lot of that furor as well. But everybody on Twitter was talking about how, wow, the defense is doing so well, and this is a slam dunk for the defense. And now I'm looking at Rep's live stream chat, it has 900 people in it. Everybody's saying this is rigged. This isn't fair. He didn't deserve this. Justice is dead. It's like, I mean, yeah, it probably, but it doesn't matter, because what the mainstream media wants is what they're going to get, and what the cathedral wants is what they're going to get, and this is what they want, so it's what they're going to get. Similar to what happened with the election cases.
Yeah, and see, that's that, and I again, it didn't surprise me that he was found guilty of all. I honestly thought they were just gonna throw a bunch of manslaughter charges on him instead of murder. But, and I mean, even the judge said it yesterday. I watched him yesterday, and I mean, I didn't really keep up with this trial, mainly because of just of like what was going on and the way people were acting about it. But it's like, I mean, it's grounds for an appeal with how politicized and how I mean, how everything was being treated. I mean, you can't have your institutions try to be non-partial and everything whenever, like, it's either like, because the thing about the jury is that they know it. And I mean, they were not sequestered, so they were still allowed. They were basically told by the judge, "Don't watch the news." And he said that he was hoping that they were able to not do that. But then it's like, but the jury knows that if they do not charge him, even if the defense had a really good case, then then it's either A, they vote to convict him of all charges like they just did, or B, they're basically responsible for nationwide or even worldwide unrest.
Well, I mean, realistically, this is look, I have my opinions, and the court, in many ways, has been subverted by the mainstream media, and I know I'm not, and it has been subverted. Like you were talking about, the judge said, "Don't watch the news." Maxine Waters literally threatening to be violent or encouraging confrontation. This is what happens, and I'm not shocked at all. I should have. I was too afraid to say it because I thought I would be wrong, but this is what I thought would happen, and I made a video about it, and then I deleted the video because I was like, oh, but what if he's not found guilty on all counts? Now I regret not uploading that video because I would have been like, look at me, I was right, but now I can't do that. But yeah, this is like, people can be disappointed all they want, but I think that this is like the natural progression of things. Obviously, really... there will be an appeal.
Yeah.
There will be an appeal instantly. There will be a mistrial. They'll go for mistrial because of the outside influences and stuff.
There were so many outside influences, and like, I mean, if the jury could truly non-partially like find him guilty of all charges, that's, I mean, that's our judicial system at work. But whenever you're sitting there basically threatening to get confrontational whenever you don't get the verdict that you want, I mean, and especially from a person that's in the legislative branch, frankly, I mean, I love the Constitution. I'm a pretty much
it's a dead document. Don't love the Constitution. It's worthless.
Oh, you think it's a piece of paper?
I think that it is a piece of paper that reflects the ideals of Anglo-Saxon tradition and of our founding fathers and of the founding stock. But considering the founding stock no longer exists in America, our enemies don't treat it with reverence the way it should be treated, and therefore, if we continue to treat it with reverence, we will get outpaced by them and destroyed by them at every turn. And this is what we're seeing happen. So okay. Yes,
I kind of see that though.
So love the Constitution, all you will. I love the Constitution. I love the ideas of the Constitution. I love what it stands for. Unfortunately, I recognize that is a Constitution that was written for just and moral people. That's what Benjamin Franklin said. This is what John Adams says. This is what John Jay said. This is what James Madison said in the Federalist Papers number 3. No, it was John Jay in Federalist number 3, I think, who said that this is for the providence of our peoples and for just people. And now that we're no longer just the Constitution invalid. Any law is just an agreement between two parties to promise each other not to violate the rule. And the moment the person in power violates the rule, it's no longer a rule because it's thrown out of the window. They get to abuse their power. Like, where does the sovereignty lie in the United States? Does the sovereignty lie in a piece of paper, or does the sovereignty lie in the person who is supposedly restrained by that piece of paper? Obviously, it lies within the person who is restrained by that piece of paper. And if the person steps out of the bounds of that piece of paper, then the piece of paper isn't going to grow an arm and a leg and get up and resist. So I don't know. I'm sorry to
no,
take you down the Constitution as fake pill, but it's true.
Which kind of reminds me, about your democracy video. I may be forgetting. I need to watch that video again whenever we're done here. What's basically like if that's what your thoughts are on the Constitution, and then your thoughts on democracy, for those in chat, like I would recommend going and watching his democracy video.
Thank you.
But my question is like, what do you think is a better option than, you know, the Constitution and democracy?
I don't know. I think democracy is the best form of government. Republicanism is the best form of government when it's done correctly. When it's done with a moral population. Our founding fathers recognized this, and we blundered it. We messed up big time somewhere along the road. Our parents and their parents messed up, and our great grandparents or whatever, or great great grandparents. And like there is no such thing as an impartial trial. That's what I said at the beginning of the stream. Well, so I'm glad you remember that, or I'm glad that you bring that up as well, because it's true. There's no such thing as an impartial trial. But ideally, the other than democracy, I mean, autocracy is the only other option, really, because you don't want tyranny. Tyranny's terrible, and like there's the Moldbugian idea of like a technocratic monarchy where you treat the government like a corporation with a board of directors. That's a semi-libertarian idea that Moldbug's been developing over the last 14 years on his blog. You know, obviously there's the authoritarian dictatorship path that some people want to take, like the Erdogan or Viktor Orban. And then you have the liberal solutions, which is a technocratic oligarchy veiled in the idea of democracy. So they pretend and enforce actions and make sure that they get their outcomes, and that's how it works. So I you know, it pains me to say that democracy is inept at this point, but it's probably true that it is inept at this point. So, like you asked me, what is the right thing to do? The right thing to do, ideally, would be to become a moral and just people again, so we can live in democracy. But there's another very famous quote that says, democracy only works as long as the people of democracy understand that. No, I'm misquoting that. They say, democracy fails to work once the people who live in the democratic society realize that they can bribe their politicians. And they'll eventually just get like votes. How about an unelected lower house which comes up with bills and new laws, and an elected upper house which approves them? Unelected lower house.
I mean,
how would they get chosen?
Yeah, like that's
an elected lower house.
That's one of the things that I've always hear is like everyone is always about like, you know, like say like unappointed or something like that, and then they're just like, oh well, I mean, there's a lot more that kind of goes into that. Like if you're talking about an unelected lower house, who the hell's appointing them?
Well, have you heard of I believe his name is Robert Hurst or something. I can't remember his name, but he has 3 rules for for politics. Or he has his 3 laws of politics, and he's a conservative guy. I think it's like Robert Conquest 3 rules of politics or something like this. And one of the rules is any institution that is not it's Robert's Conquest 3 laws of politics. Any institution that is not overtly conservative will inevitably drift into leftism. So these are the 3 rules. Everyone is a conservative about what he knows best. Any organization not explicitly right-wing sooner or later becomes left-wing. The simplest way to explain the behavior of any bureaucratic organization is to assume that it is controlled by a cabal of its enemies. So basically, it's saying that bureaucratic systems suck. It's saying that, and this is what I want to focus in on to answer this question, Rowan. If there is a unelected chamber anywhere, whether the upper, lower, so the left and right house, it will inevitably shift to the left, and it will inevitably become biased towards liberals. So I'm not in favor of that, obviously, because I want to win. So there's that.
And who was it that created this?
It is Robert Conquest. He's some big academic. I always forget his name though because it's so obscure. He is a longtime research fellow at Stanford University, Hoover's institution. He is most notable for his work on the Soviet Union. He died in 2015 and was born in 1917.
Okay, I've actually never heard of that.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to a Reddit post about it.
Okay.
Let me see. How do I do this? There you go. Yeah, but I think it'll just inevitably become leftist. So there's no like.
Now, by leftist,
I.
are you talking about
What's
like
up?
whenever it because see that's the thing about leftism is it's basically like a collective feeling of like, and especially with what's going on right now, I feel like a lot of people that identify as leftists because they want to some of them do want power, a lot of them do want power, but then it's like a lot of them that do follow it but don't have that much of a say in it, but then they're going to the marches, they're going to all of these things, and it's basically uh I wouldn't say virtue signaling, but it's basically like they want, like whenever they look back, the way that I've kind of like stated it is whenever they look back on themselves in 50 years from now, they want to look at themselves and say, oh, like I fought the good fight, I fought for the virtue of everyone, and I did what I could to fight for freedoms of others.
What? Right. Yeah. I guess it's like the progressive like trait of it, maybe like this idea that they want to fight for other people, and that is inherently like this Calvinistic type of, or yeah, I don't want to say Calvinistic. I don't entirely agree with that, but this very progressive idea, and it's pretty stupid. Because there's two people or two things you should be fighting for, maybe three things. The promotion and further enlightening of the population through the church ethics.
Uh-huh.
So expanding the church and being a disciple and going and making disciples. You should fight for your family and your family's existence. And then if you're living in a moral state, then you should fight for the state of or for the existence of your country and your state. Anything else like fighting for this idea of social justice is dumb because justice will never take place on earth. There's no such thing as justice on earth. Justice is only exacted by Jesus Christ once people die or either go to heaven or hell. That's justice. So this idea that we can be like just on earth, there will always be unjust trials, which is what this commenter was saying earlier on. I believe his name was that's what Frisky Island was saying. There will always be impartial trials. There's no such thing as a partial trial, as a free and fair trial. Another point Michael Malice makes a lot. And so nothing will ever be entirely just. And justice in my worldview is left up to Jesus, or I should say God. So there's that. But and I'm sorry for ranting there. I don't even remember where I was going with that or any of that. But
it was more of a conversation about like because you were talking about what the topic was before, but you started talking about like leftists and all that, and I was just kind of like I wanted to get your definition on like I guess what I really was trying to ask is like what's your definition of a leftist? Just anyone left of center?
um, I really don't know. Leftist is a very broad term. I can define liberal. I can define liberal for you. I could maybe neoliberal. I could define leftist is someone that leftists are an illusion. They're not real. What they are pawns of neoliberals for the most part, because they're too stupid to realize that they're not functioning in their correct worldview. Like they want to destroy the liberal order, and they like hate liberalism, and they want to become, they want the proletariat to rise up. this is what Lenin understood, but the modern day leftists don't understand. You cannot destroy the system of liberalism and capitalism from within its society. And this is why you see people like Vosh who claim to be leftists and claim to be communists or progressives. Once they become wealthy and successful, they don't pass out their income. They don't live by the moral codes that they set forth. They're operating within a liberal framework. Going to destroy the liberal framework operating within it. And this is the criticism that people had of Schmitt when Schmitt was writing about how liberalism is bad. I think it was Hegel, or maybe it was Strauss. No, it was Strauss. Strauss said that Schmitt had a terrible criticism of liberalism because he was still operating from within the framework of liberalism and using the same moral code. And so you have to be like post-liberal, or you have to be like, a pre-liberal, I guess, for many communists who want to be pre-liberal, post-liberal. But after the framework is how you destroy liberalism. And that's why they always fell. And so I don't think leftists are really, I don't think they're real. I think they're fake. They're just pawns of the neoliberals. So that's what leftism is to me. But yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, we've been streaming for about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Do you want to call it in soon, or like is there anything else that we can discuss?
No, I don't know if there's anything else. Humanity has not lived under communism longer than they've lived under a system that's communism didn't exist until the 18th century, right? 17, was it the 1700s or was it the 18? I think it was the 1800s.
I've heard a lot of people say like we used to live in communism whenever
we were hunter gatherers.
Hunter gatherers, and I'm just like, isn't that more of like anarcho primitivism, something like that? Like,
yeah, it's not an economic system. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
The economic system, and even if that were the case, the economic system of communism, like if they were communist societies back in the primitive ages, they socially they don't line up with communism at all. They were very hierarchical. They cared a lot about family values or tribal values and stuff like that. Stuff that communists are, large swath against. So it doesn't really line up. So yeah, I don't agree with that either. But if there's anything you should take away from this stream, and you've been listening for a while, I would say that it is this: everything is fake and gay, and the Constitution isn't real, and believe in God, and that's it.
Well, you heard it from him first. The Constitution is gay, and just don't believe in anything. No,
other than God, I said believe in God.
Other than God.
Believe in truth. There is truth. Truth is real. I'm not a relativist, but
how many things made by there are?
Things made by men are not. They don't last forever.
Yeah,
basically.
True. But I'll go ahead and wrap the stream up, and if you could just stay in the call for a few more minutes, and then we could wrap it up. Let me go ahead and do that. All right. For those who are watching right now, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content just like this, hit that bell notification icon. So you can be notified whenever I go live again. But I do really appreciate at least that chat was a little more what do you call it? Just moderate, or not moderate, yeah, moderate, politically moderate. But I do appreciate that everyone was pretty just down low in chat. We're really arguing a lot. And at least chat was a little more what do you call it? Just in tune to the conversation. So I appreciate that whenever that happens. I really do like that, and I do appreciate DC Perspective joining us today. So again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll try to stream this around this time next week. And I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.